It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program.
Good morning.
So just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
What up? What up? Mic check, mic check. How I sound, y'all? What's up? Thumbs up. Good morning. Say something. Say good morning in the chat. Good morning in the chat. How y'all feeling? How you feeling? Whether you're watching live or later, this is Mike with Mika, the live stream, not the podcast. If you're watching live or later, what up? Thank you for supporting it. What's up, Whiskey Neat? I said your name 3 times, Whiskey Neat, and you showed up. What's up? Right, Megzy, Lil Mama, appreciate y'all. I'm excited again. I'm really going to really move in a direction that positions the live stream to sit with and talk with just a bunch of rad folks. So I'm continuing on with the interviews. Shout out to people who reached out to me. You will be on Mic'd Up. What's up, Anna Marks? Good morning. Anna Marks, we're going to, around the edges of today's live stream, we're going to talk about some things that, get you going. And I mean in a great way. Some things you can relate to. So anyway, around the edges, today we're going to talk about, if you got the newsletter this morning, hopefully you did. If you got the newsletter this morning, you'll see that it was entitled, the title of the newsletter, or the subject line rather, is The Color of Money. We're going to have a friend to the live stream, part of a collective that I'm working with outside of this space here. Brandon Silvers will be joining me. Y'all know him in the chat. Y'all get this. If y'all don't know him like in real life, you'll get to put a face to the name, a face to the politics, a face to the tweets, whatever you want to say. So Brandon is definitely gonna. And I got something queued up. I got a surprise for him. Queued up. I got a surprise for y'all. Messing around these damn buttons. But anyway, we're going to talk about Brandon and I, we went back and forth via text message about like what could he talk about. And I do like to keep it kind of like less structured, so that if someone is invited on, like Fernando, right? Fernando can go in like 100 different directions in terms of what we could talk about. But I like, yo, do what you gotta do. Like, talk what you want to talk. But one thing we constantly talk about, and it's kind of where I met Brandon outside of this collective that he and I are part of, with Fernando. I met Brandon at this place of Black commerce, Black economic mobility, Black economic empowerment. Like those were the conversations he and I were having. A few conversations. We didn't have many interactions until I started working with him. Anyway, so I know that he has thoughts and insights, and I think more than anything, like I'd love to and I will invite really like strong scholars, maybe economists. Y'all know I've played excerpts of my audio interview with Jacova Williams, who once worked at EPI, the Economic Policy Institute. She's also an economist, right? So I'd love to bring on economists and people of that ilk, but it's also important for you to talk to someone who is a Charlestonian, outlining their experiences with money, outlining their experiences with trying to be an entrepreneur, outlining their experiences in these circles, in these rooms like tech and other types of commerce or commerce adjacent spaces. It's important for you to also like to look at and value a Black person's lived experience and look at that as being just as valid as a resource, or just as valid as a source on maybe all things finance and economy, if that makes any sense, right? Like if you talk to my dad, you're not going to get this very like high, like you're not going to get this elevated conversation with all the jargony words and finances, but he can tell you how he stretched his dollar. He can tell you what he's going through. He can tell you his experiences as a retired, octogenarian on Wamala. He can share those experiences, and those are things that we need to start listening to. People's lived experience. Anecdotal is valid, right? Anecdotal is a legitimate source of research or insight. So I want to start normalizing that too. Like, yo, you don't got to be an economist, right? But let's break it down. Like, what are you seeing? Almost like how, like, okay, so I interviewed Alvin Johnson last week. I uploaded part one of two. And one thing you'll hear, if it wasn't in the first part, one thing you'll hear is, yes, Alvin is an engineer. He showed up in this space. He's done studies for this property and this company, but he led the subcommittee on economic empowerment for the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation that was led by Amber Johnson with the city of Charleston. And so, for me, I'm like, well, you kind of like a STEM guy, like a sciencey guy, but I quickly kind of like reverse my thinking, and I got you on the chat. I quickly reversed my thinking. I'm like, oh no, I get it. His experiences, professional and personal, position him perfectly to talk about or to foster or facilitate conversations in and around black wealth building and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that. So at 8:30. Brandon's gonna be here, and then once I finish the interview with Brandon, we're gonna expand the conversation to talk about black wealth, right? And this way that I talked about it during my giving project. So get your pencils and composition pads ready, because I will be breaking out the curriculum again, and we will be revisiting the root of systemic inequality, financial, disproportionate financial inequality. We'll talk about that and its roots, right? The root causes. So because it's one thing to just give you the forecast, tell you, okay, it's cloudy out there with a slight chance of racial discrimination at the bank. Like, it's one thing for me to tell you, outline what the problem is, but my jam is telling you how it started, B. So you can actively start dismantling it, all right? All right, let me see what's up in the chat. Kia's in here. Buenos dias, Kia. Buenos dias. Joy, good morning. Little mama, you said I figured out how to add email to contacts. Girl, it still does? I don't know what's good. I don't know. All right, Joy, good morning. Kia, good morning, everyone. Shout out. Oh, yeah. Please, yeah, you deserve it. You deserve way more. What's up? Who's this? A few seconds ago. Oh, Denise, you gifted, thank you. Thank you for gifting us up. I appreciate you. Let me see who else is in here. What's up, K-Bells? Hey. Okay, little mama Kia, K-Bells, Joy. Little mama Kia, K-Bells, Joy. All right, cool. And yo, I know I made a joke before I switch up, right? I know I made a joke about lurkers. Shout out to lurkers, like the good lurkers. I know I got other lurkers, and I got some people probably posing as friends, too, that we ain't seen. But shout out to the good lurkers who don't participate. Either they're driving, either, they just want to be discreet, incognito. So shout out to the lurkers, like the good ones that just watch and listen. I love y'all too. Thank you. I appreciate it. The views matter. So the views matter. All right, let me open up before I switch the screen, not tell all my business. Let me open up my Gmail since it's going to people's spam. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm using MailChimp. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to pull up the newsletter. Boom, back. Bow. Okay, here we go. I'm going to switch it up. We see you looking, right? We see you. I appreciate you, though. I know some people, you got to stay low. You work, you work for big muckety mucks and whatnot, Ain't trying to mess up that check for you. All right. So today, of course, again, shout out to Brandon. Okay, Brandon's going to get ready at 8:30. We're going to talk to him. I just labeled it very plainly diversity within the low country business landscape, but we're going to talk about the black wealth gap. We're going to talk about its origins, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite books that legit don't know how I didn't incorporate it with my curriculum when I taught the Giving Project. I kind of know why I probably couldn't get to it. I just had so much resistance building out that Giving Project. So I'm busy playing defense and can't really give it my all. There were some parts where I couldn't give it my all. But we're going to talk about one of my favorite books that y'all gotta get. Like, seriously. You don't get this book if you don't get this book in terms of check it out at the library, it's on Hoopla. If you got a Richland County library card, it's on Hoopla. It's on Audible. But if you don't get this book, if you don't get your hands on this book in 6 months, then you can't come back to Mic'd Up. You got 6 months. It's like a mandate. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna do that. Shout out to y'all real quick. It's never real quick. Shout out to y'all I know I should have started here, but honestly, I'm just like overwhelmed. Shout out to y'all. I really appreciate like the outpouring of support for this fundraiser. Again, shout out, I can't say this enough, shout out to Mackenzie, really working her contacts, really working, shout out to the people that reached out and asked for the verbiage that really is you can borrow from the posts, either my post or Headspace Murals post, or anything like that. You can just borrow that verbiage, but that shout out to people who reached out and just wanted to get the script. It's because honestly, y'all, I appreciate people here. This is kind of, this is gonna sound like I'm kind of stretching it a little bit. I know y'all got me, right? Even if you don't buy a t-shirt or a hoodie, I know y'all got me, right? And y'all have held me. But the other part of the expectation is that you ask other people, like, so you asking Mika, is this what are you trying to do? Is this like some kind of pyramid scheme? No. It doesn't cost you anything to share either the content, this live stream, or this fundraiser. And so the expectation is that y'all share this with your network. So what I've seen Mackenzie model is, hey, I know these people, these influential people, I can hit them up. And I'm like, okay, sure. And it's turned out in ways that I hadn't really imagined. That's what I expect y'all to do. That's what the Giving Project was positioned its cohort members to do, is, hey, there's this thing you believe in. How do you advocate for it? How do you go out there and ask people, to participate? And even if y'all just walk away with like, will you at least check out the live stream? That is a net win. This whole thing is about, that's why the URL is on the sleeve, is because this whole thing is designed to increase the viewership of this live stream, and not just, the financial or the material support. It's about increasing the viewership. I need more eyeballs on. Of course, there has to be a marketing strategy, and I have to, expend resources to do that digitally. But I want to do this organically. I want to do this within the community first and foremost. And so, if you know of some businesses you don't feel comfortable, ask. If you know of some people that you don't know, hit me up. But the expectation is that you start spreading the word and that you share it with your friends, like Mackenzie has. But yeah, the fundraiser is still on and popping for 2 weeks. Probably gonna do probably gonna plan some special things throughout these 2 weeks to emphasize the importance of raising money. So if you got the newsletter, you already know that. Like I said earlier, real quick to honor, we're gonna, like, this right here. This is the reason why I didn't take this out and put yesterday's live stream. The Bell Hooks live stream, like, teaser up here, because we're going to talk about dark money philanthropy again, and we're going to talk about CCF and Black wealth again. Is it related? Oh yeah. Shout out to my friend last night who held me down. We had a very robust conversation about this, and it literally, I took notes. I hate being that person, but everything is content in my life. I'm a content creator, so everything is content. So I took notes with this conversation about Black wealth in the South. But again, you see, you can catch up on other shows. You can share this with your folks, with your people. Anyway, yeah, that's what's up. So this is the newsletter. What I want to do is 15 minutes till Brandon. I got the everything hooked up there. I want to go ahead and switch to some local news that I think is worth reading. Let me see what's up in the chat though. We see, okay. Hey, Joni, good morning. Hey, B-Man. Hey. Yeah. All right. Yep. Thank y'all so much. It's the pyramid scheme, a higher consciousness, right? Like that's what you get. It's like, right? It's not like, cause I thought about that. Like, do I sound like I'm trying to like make people sound like an MLM or something like that? Really not. I really just need and want more support, more eyeballs. And yeah, that's what I'm asking y'all to help with. Okay, so this is the front page. I did not use my library card because I needed to dig into this for the state newspaper. Front page of the state newspaper. Okay, 14 minutes till Brandon. New CEO for Santee Cooper. Not getting into that. This is a really interesting story. I'm glad they focused on the victims. I'm glad that the press is focusing more on the Murdaugh family's victims, and we talking about victims that are going way, way back. At least I do. But at least they're reporting on people who are like this 51-year-old man right here, Jordan Jinks. All right, so I'm glad that they're doing that. But the story I wanted to hit up right here, front page above the fold in the state newspaper, A Citadel cadet offered a plea deal in January 6th Capitol riot. This dude got 3 years probation. And if y'all thinking that ain't nothing, the abolitionist in me is like, that's a lot. That's a lot.
We had the opportunity to speak to 3 Black women who are doing the work every single day.
Caught in the act.
Oh, gosh.
State finds that several officers.
I don't know. Okay, I got it. I refreshed the tab. Oh, we're going to get to this. This right here. We're going to get to that. But let's go back to the state newspaper. So Citadel cadet offered plea deal in January 6th Capitol riot, right? And then let me pull up the Post and Courier. Okay, this is the Post and Courier, right? The Post and Courier right here, front page today. Pfizer, Moderna, COVID vaccines recommended over J&J. I'm sorry, but I already knew that. I didn't want a one-hitter quitter. Like this whole like old, is it an idiom or saying, pay now, pay later? Like to me, the 2 doses, I know that seemed more cumbersome, but just something about like that 1 dose just was like, I don't know, fam. The other ones is like saying 2 doses. And so I don't know. And then I heard of some, I don't know. I know reactions vary from people. But I just heard way more stories of symptoms and side effects of J&J. Anyway, so that's on the front page of the Post and Courier. Options for pedestrian bike bridge. Tom, I'm not gonna be able to get to this. I'm sorry, Tom. I know this is this is your wheelhouse. Is that still Yeah, that's Sylvie. I met her when she was on the College of Charleston. She's a College of Charleston student. She's still with Second Chance Bikes. But here's the story reason why I'm bringing this up too, so you can see, of course, Biden awards Medal of Honor to SC Army Ranger. I think he's trying to like cushion his landing here. I'm not trying to be inappropriate about, someone lost a loved one, someone lost a son here, probably a husband. So I'm not trying to make this overly political, or I'm not trying to like use his death as a moment to make a larger political point. But I feel like the timing is everything. Like, y'all, anything that's front facing is a strategy, I don't want to say premeditated. I got in trouble with like with Marlon Kimpson when I said premeditated or when I said orchestrated or coordinated. He didn't like any of those words. There's a high level of coordination with this. This is a Medal of Honor. This is a posthumous, I can't never say that word, y'all get me. This is a Medal of Honor awarded after, someone has passed away. This is a big deal. That is not a coincidence that he's today delivering the commencement speech at SC State. So you hear what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like, okay, let's get some good pub going kind of thing. At the bottom here, you see on the Post and Courier's bottom, Mace trip to Monkey Island targets Fauci and animal research. Y'all, on the digital website, they had a picture of her on a boat. This girl. But let's get to this. One of Nancy's fellow alum right here. All right, SC man in the Capitol. Now, Avery Wilkes wrote this, so y'all, I love Avery Wilkes. I think he's a really, really dope writer. I don't know how he feels about me, but I think he's dope. All right, trucker from Newberry repeatedly apologized in January 6th event. I'm going to read a little bit of this and bounce over because we got 10 minutes to Brandon. All right. First South Carolinian to be sentenced for storming the the U.S. Capitol on January 6th won't spend any time behind bars. Instead, federal judge sentenced Newberry trucker Andrew Hatley, 34 years old, to 3 years of probation for his role in historic assault. Go ahead, Avery. His role in historic assault aimed to overturning the results of the 2020 presidential election. Let me go ahead and... Come on now. Come on, Avery. Let's do it. Absolutely. All right. Far better than I deserve, Your Honor. Oh, he was real humble. Far better than I deserve, Your Honor. Hatley told Judge Thomas Hogan during the long hearing on December 16th. Yeah, I see you in the chat too. So yeah, let's go ahead and flip over now. Let's flip back over to the state's coverage. I'm gonna make this. Let's see. I wanted to make it a little larger. Here we go. Right here. All right. Let's see if I can drag it. Here we go. Perfect. All right. Got 8 minutes till Brandon. All right. So Citadel Cadet, I love how they lead with this. Shout out John Monk. I don't know your work that well, but let's go. A Citadel Cadet. Let's not bury the lead, y'all. A Citadel Cadet and another South Carolina have offered plea deals to various charges. Oh, there's 2? To various charges connected with the January 6th storming of the Capitol. 2 men, the Citadel Cadet. Oh, no, this is something else. Oh, okay, my bad. I conflated Hatley with this. 2 men, Citadel Cadet Elias Irizarry and his friend Elliot Bishi. Oh, these are 2 different ones who were at the Capitol together on January 6th have made no decisions on whether to accept the guilty plea offers. Lawyers for both men, whose homes are in York County, said at the Wednesday status hearing that that they only received offers late last week. Okay, these are different stories. My bad. I had kind of assumed that they were both the same. All right. I know I'm going really fast on the local stuff, but yeah, okay. So I just want to read that headline, and then I had to play this. So last night on Fox 24, remember Fox 24 is a Sinclair station, just letting y'all know. Last night, Fox 24 aired a story that I cannot find. Like, I can't find it on their website. It's not on YouTube. I just can't find it. But they aired a story. But they're, you know that Fox 24 and WCIV, Fox 4, ABC 4, y'all know that those are like essentially the same station. So at least there's a written version of the story, but not the video version of the story right here. So I'm going to read it from the stations that I got it from first. 16 law enforcement officers from Mount Pleasant, Charleston, and North Charleston, Somerville police departments, along with Charleston County Sheriff's Office, Charleston County Sheriff's Office were accused of skipping training through video on how to handle domestic situations. And the reason why the Sinclair station framing was better is because they emphasized the domestic violence angle, right? Whereas we're going to watch it right here with Channel 5, and you're not going to see that same thing. Shout out to Raphael, but you're just not. And the young lady who actually does the story.
There's cheated on mandated training this year using a loophole.
Okay, let me wind it back to the tippy top.
Caught in the act. The state finds that several officers cheated on mandated training this year using a loophole in the system to speed through videos and sharing how to do so online. Blair Sable takes a look at how the state is making changes to ensure that doesn't happen again.
It's an integrity issue. You've been tasked to do something. You're paid to do something. And you obviously...
Let me just say this. Not a fan of the content of what he said. 5 minutes till Brandon, y'all. Not a big fan of what he's saying. But I think that Sheriff Graziano need to take notes on how to just go ahead and eat that L while also just kind of downplaying it. I'm just talking from a PR strategy. Now, I'm not advocating that cops downplay their errors, but this is what it looks like to go ahead and just own up and not try to hide behind like no comment. And let me just say this because I don't want to lose this thought. Shout out to the person, I ain't gonna mention your name, but you sent me another response that the sheriff offered you via email, and it was a little bit different from the others in that the sheriff went far. I'm not gonna say too much. Matter of fact, the sheriff went. No, the sheriff offered up some details that I thought were interesting to this person that was not in all of the other responses. The sheriff emphasized again that they sought out the women at the training. I'm just want to say this, and then we're gonna get through this clip. I got you though. I know. 4 minutes of Brandon. Said that women kept emphasizing the women weren't willing to participate. Talking about that there's a new system. This is what she offered. This is the different part. This is a new system. She said that she got them out the training. That they drove up there and got them out the training. That they immediately stripped them of duties. Yada yada yada. Let me tell you something. Say that to the press. There's a reason why she's not saying this to the press, and whether or not that's true or not, whether or not she might have a trove of information that changes the story a little bit or changes it a lot. you have to say to the press, the reason why she's saying this and being a gangster in inboxes versus not sitting down with Steve Garrison or whomever is because because she knows the press can look into it. That's what I feel. That's what I suspect. So you can say anything to the public, but you know that a member of the press is going to fact check you. But anyway, going back to this is how you kind of take a L. He don't even take it completely, but this is how you take a L in law enforcement.
Did not do that.
The ethics of several South Carolina law enforcement officers from across the state are now in question after an audit from the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. It found representatives from more than 24 agencies cheated on their mandatory training, some watching the hours-long videos in a matter of minutes.
We learned, and an officer had posted on the social media site that there was a way to speed it up and not watch it in its entirety. And so that sort of caught us off guard and puzzled us that somebody would first do that.
It puzzled you that somebody would fast forward through training?
The SCCGA notified 5 departments in the Low Country about 16 individuals earlier this month. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office with 7 deputies identified, 6 officers in the North Charleston.
Who leading? Culture.
And police department, as well as officers from the Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and Somerville police departments. Charleston PD has informed Live 5 News that their officers' watch time only differed by about a minute due to computer issues. The topics skipped over domestic violence and legal updates. In this case, the SCCGA has allowed each.
So let me hop out of that because I want to get ready for Brandon. So you heard that domestic violence and state and illegal updates were skipped over. So when you go to, again, I saw it originally on because I was watching the Thursday night football game. Shout out to the Kansas City, the team in Kansas City. I don't want to use that anti-indigenous name, the team of Kansas City. Shout out Mahomes. But yeah, so 16 law enforcement officers, Mount Pleasant, Charleston PD, North Charleston PD, Somerville PD, and of course the Charleston County Sheriff's Office were accused of skipping through that training. I'm going to get back to this, but basically 1 minute till Brandon, this is a problem. So this was Tasha Connors, the CEO of the Low Country Domestic Violence Shelter, My Sister's House. Okay, this is a problem. It's very easy to push away. But when we do that, what we get in South Carolina is continuing to continually, stay in the top 10 of states where women are murdered by men, right? So if we want change, we have to radically change. Shout out to Tasha. I'm gonna get this to Tasha. Shout out. I don't know Tasha like that, but that's how you get ready for the press. You come in and you go ahead and you crystallize this issue. This is a huge issue, and that's why they reached out to her. Like, hey, all these cops fast forward through domestic violence training. What do you think about that? Yeah, that's really fucked up given this state's history. Post and Courier won an entire. We're getting ready for Brandon. Won an entire award. Make sure I got everything over here. Hold up. Yeah, everything's Gucci. Yeah. Everything's Gucci. All right. With the Post and Courier won a Pulitzer behind their coverage, right, of domestic violence. So that was a really important angle to it that I think Fox did a good job, but I can't find the story. Hopefully it'll be up later, or I can maybe take more time.
Recording in progress.
No.
Recording stopped.
All right. So let's get ready for Brandon. All right. Let me switch it up. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? Okay, I got you. Hold on 1 second, homie. All right. And I'm going to keep that off. Boom, boom. Admit. Full screen. All right. What's up? Can you hear me, homie?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Y'all thumbs up in the chat if y'all can hear Brandon. I'm playing sound effects over your audio. Hold on 1 second. Let me get my life together. I want to do, how do I hide this? Nope, speaker view. And then I want to, how do I do that? No, don't do that. All right, hold on 1 second, Brandon. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get this.
Nah, you're good.
I'm trying to get it how I used to, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna rock with it. Y'all can see, okay, thumbs up. Everyone's saying good, thumbs up. Hey, okay, is that Jillian? Jillian Palmer, what's up? Oh, no, who is that? Jilly Palm. I don't know who that is. Hey, Whiskey Neat can see you. Kia's in the chat. Yeah. You know everybody, so let me stop. Okay, I got something special for you. You're not gonna be able to hear it, but we're gonna play this.
Okay.
I'm playing the NBA on NBC old theme from the 90s.
That's my alarm sound.
Shut the fuck up, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. NBA on TNT. That's the one side sound effect that I put in there. Justin, if Justin watches now or later, he'll get it too. He'll love it. Sports fans will love it.
I am honored.
Okay, cool, homie. It's really good to have you right here on the live stream finally, so people can see you. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. That's what I want to do. Hide myself view. People can see you and put a name to the tweets, put a face to the tweets and all that. But how you feeling?
I am nervous but excited.
Oh, don't be nervous. You with family.
I know. I'm amongst family and friends, so I don't know. So,
well, Brandon, I wanted to kind of keep this conversation as broad as you want, or as granularly, as focused as you want. You and I think, as I said this before, I said this earlier in the live stream, you and I kind of started exchanging texts around just Black, I guess, upward mobility. We talked specifically about housing, but I got the sense then early on that you had an economic focus, and we also had a mutual that also let me know that you had like an economic focus. But introduce yourself however you want to introduce yourself to folks. Go ahead and do that, and we'll jump into economic empowerment and diversity in your observations here in the Low Country.
Yes. So I'm Brandon Silvers, born and raised here in Charleston.
All right.
I'm currently in real estate with CSA Real Estate Services with the great Charlie Smith. As you have accurately predicted, I definitely have an economic focus, so I'm kind of moving in that direction. I recently graduated. My bachelor's degree is in business management, and I recently graduated from Cal Berkeley Startup Law's venture capital certificate program, and that in and of itself, that whole industry we could do a whole show on that alone. But yeah, here I am. I'm glad to be here, longtime fan. So
yeah, I sometimes I don't believe you when they say that, but I appreciate the support, bro. All right, shout out to the new subscribers. But so what I wanted to ask you though, like, and I said this earlier, anecdotal experiences or anecdotal accounts, our lived experience as Black people, I think it uniquely qualifies us to offer up commentary about things like commerce, like trying to do business. You mentioned real estate. I want to know just what are your observations about like the business landscape in Charleston, especially from, and you identify as a Black man, correct? Just for clarity for everybody.
Correct. Okay. Well, my mom's white, but
yeah, I got you.
We so get everything I've identified as Black. That's kind of how things are a little more nuanced now. But I've grown up as a Black man. So. Okay,
right. Well, yeah, I ain't gonna get. Yeah, we ain't gotta explain the one drop rule to nobody down here. Hopefully,
I hope not. But you know.
But no, as a Black man, so tell us more about like your experience. Like, what are your observations traversing the business landscape in Charleston or South Carolina?
So, I really got into real estate because I've liked business my whole life because it's kind of the most concrete product of ideas. I'm a big idea person. And so it's the most concrete product of an idea that I can grasp. Mm-hmm. So I know when I got my degree, I was like, I'm gonna get into business, and people were like, oh, you seem like a people person. So sales might be something you would be good at. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know if be insulted or what. So I was looking at the tech industry because this is when I became aware of like the heavy marketing of like Silicon Harbor, this, that, and the other. So I straight up, I went through the whole Charleston Digital Corridor website. I went to like 1 million companies, and I was looking at the leadership teams, and this might come as a shock, but they were all white.
Oh, wow.
I know. So I was like, this doesn't seem like a place that's really going to be open to me. So I was like, well, I got to do something. I was working in youth sports and recreation at the time, and I was getting burnt out on that. So that's when I got into real estate. I was like, this could be the move here. It's a great industry. Well, it's a busy industry. Yeah. And obviously that's been kind of an eye-opener as well. But that's kind of how I ended up in real estate, is because I didn't think there was a place for me in tech.
And I think that's the unfortunate but common experience of Black folk. I think sometimes even me, I probably done this in the past where I kind of like, why he bouncing around so much? Why she always trying all these different hats on? And then like I realized that was some of my anti-Blackness. I'm like, Mika, how many times have you reinvented yourself, or how many times have you pivoted? You know, how many times have you just reoriented your focus purely because of being like locked out or pushed out of a space? And then on top of this, you didn't say this, but I'll offer this up, Brandon. Like, when you're in those tech spaces and you go to those digital corridor mixers and you know, tech after 5 or whatever it is, right? You're sometimes your only Black person in these rooms, and that's not a good feeling, you know, like just being the only one there.
Not at all.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Like, I'm kind of, this probably would sound like the final question, but I'm just going to ask it now. So like, what are your hopes? Like as an entrepreneur, as someone trying to make their way through, what is your hope for like business, Black business in this area, in this state?
Honestly, like my big thing is I want everyone to have an opportunity to fulfill their own potential. And that involves like a level playing field. That means that I shouldn't have to kind of suppress who I am as a person to show up and work or anything like that. Like I should be able to be myself and succeed.
Okay, yeah. Someone just,
and that's for everybody.
Kia just asked in the chat, did you work at Boomtown ever?
No, I didn't even apply to any tech companies because I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, nah, it's intimidating, right? There's not really this thing here. And after we conclude this interview, I'm going to kind of explain the why as to what's not here. Spoiler alert, it's going to involve CCF around the edges. But yeah, it's really not like there isn't, and I'm sure there are like these informal spaces where Black people, like you've been in communication with Marcus. I know Marcus wanted to start like a real estate club or whatnot. So I know that there are like circles of people who talk about this, and you're creating maybe community or organizing circles where you talk about Black upward mobility, perhaps through building equity through home ownership. Yeah, so like I guess the question I want to ask you is, yeah, have you had to find these like circles? If not there's not big clubs here. They're not big after hour Black and tech type events here. Have you tried to seek out like smaller circles?
So that's interesting you asked that. So and you know this, but for everyone, I need to do a better job of promoting myself.
Yes. Yes.
So I recently helped form the first Black tech networking club in Charleston. We just had our first meeting. There'll be more information about that moving forward. And I actually co-founded the Black Real Estate Club with Marcus.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a little. I'm gonna give you a little applause. Hold up.
Definitely.
Nah, that's what's up. Yeah, you do. Because I didn't know about. I knew about the BLM angle, Marcus. I didn't know about the other piece. Yeah, tell me what are your ambitions with the tech club specifically, and then we'll ask about the housing club.
The tech club is honestly, I know, like we are super underrepresented. I mean, everyone who's not a white man is super underrepresented in tech nationally, but it's even more highly concentrated here just when you look at the demographics. So it's really to look and try to connect. Like you said, there's no real gathering spaces. We have to go assimilate into these other spaces, and there needs to be something for us and for people who are open-minded as well. So really to create that space, I guess to answer your question, if I can't find the space, I've set out now to like, if I can't find it, I'm gonna create it and see who shows up. So really with the club in particular, it's creating those networking opportunities, even though I hate the word networking.
Yeah, I know.
It's tough, but create those kind of, there's strength in numbers. So if we can eventually kind of put some pressure on some of these companies to change what they're doing in terms of diversity and inclusion, just stuff like that with the tech club. Right.
So tell me more about like what at least your ambitions with the housing, it's the real estate club? Yeah.
Real estate club. So that is interesting. So
as much as you want to talk about, it's just not.
No. So we've got some announcements coming up soon. Really, it's. I noticed that like the wealth gap, a big component of the racial wealth gap is real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed more and more people in the Black community, we were becoming aware of that and getting into real estate investing.
Mm.
So, that's good, but it's also bad because a lot of the traditional real estate investing strategies are the same ones that really are perpetuating gentrification.
Come on.
So I was like, someone should do something about this. And I was like, well, I should do something about this. And I'm not exactly an expert as far as like city planning and stuff like that. But I was like, we can't play by these same rules and expect different outcomes.
Right.
It's just a different shade of gentrification.
Right.
So how can we invest in real estate with the goal in mind of closing that racial wealth gap, but also considering community impact and community benefits?
Right. I think I was typing in the chat, Black capitalism will not save us. And as you said, that if Black people, and we talked about this a little bit with Bell Hooks, well, at least we tried. So I don't know how well we talked about it yesterday about, whether, Beyonce was participating in like patriarchal systems, and then someone was like, well, maybe it's on her terms, and she's still using the master's tools. That was a big point of tension in the debate yesterday. But just like that, transferring that to this conversation about building Black wealth, you're right. And I think that's really comforting for me to hear, me personally, to hear that you have that type of analysis before you initiate any clubs. And I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna speak for you. I'm just gonna say this. So for all the Black folks that are hearing this and you're seeing Brandon, like, oh wow, he's poised and he knows what he's talking about, and I'm gonna hit him up. Understand that it's not don't. This is a conversation I had earlier last night, Brandon. So just track with me for a second. This club and the things that Brandon just mentioned, as you can hear, y'all, they're in their early stages. Don't hit him up with this expectation of, oh, okay, you could do that. Or have you met this person? Have you met that? You gotta kind of there's ways to support what Brandon is trying to do without putting undue expectations on it. I actually wanted to introduce this to the conversation because I feel like when you do emerge, like I saw this with Marcus and other leaders, especially men, when you do emerge with solutions, when you do emerge with maybe a club or whatnot, there is a rush to anoint you as the silver bullet. Like, okay, this guy's going to save Charleston from gentrification. I want to know. I want to know, do you feel like a sense of expectations or burden? You mentioned that you're from Charleston, so that means people know you. People know your mama. People know your daddy. People might, do you feel an expectation to for your own community?
Definitely. I have no plans to leave Charleston. Mm-hmm. So just from that sense, and I want it to be fair and equitable for me, and I want it to be fair and equitable for everybody. So there's that expectation. As far as being anointed anything, that's really why it took me so long to really I'm still trying to find my voice, but really to open my mouth and start coming on Mic'd Up or contacting Marcus about the real estate club, because that makes me cringe, because I'm always growing and improving, and I'm by no means perfect, and I don't have all the solutions, so I don't want to be looked at as Black Jesus.
Yeah, no, I think that
we have enough in the space doing it already, and as you've talked about, Black women, I would like to see more people like you. That's a big, I guess, from my own personal experience, I have had more doors open for me by Black women than by Black men.
Oh, wow.
And so, maybe we should listen to Black women. They might have some decent ideas. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely that. I think when we talk about lack of diversity, we aren't strictly talking about color. We talk about lack of diversity in all of these either commercial spaces or in these industries like tech. I moved down here, and I don't want to center myself. I want people to learn more about you and your thought processes, or your thought process. But when I moved back down here, I came down here specifically because I wanted to create a website and wanted to be tech proficient, and whatever that meant. And so I invested in my own education. I've said this numerous times on Mic'd Up. I went back, I took advantage of a certificate program at College of Charleston for social media management and digital marketing. It was led by folks from Boomtown, Takia's earlier question. So I got my certificate. I launched Pink Verbena, and what I did though, I literally just hit the ground and went to go visit these tech firms in person. And it was really, I had no strategy. Looking back on it, it was so weird. It was just this black chick and these, just black chick with this backpack and this message tee on it, just popping up at places like Spark. I don't even know if Spark is still out there in Clements Ferry. I don't know if they changed the name or not, but I went to Spark and I got more familiar with what Boomtown and Blackbaud did. And I was always the only black woman in the spaces. And yeah, it was, I just fell off. I don't know. So to your point, I'm sorry to center myself.
No.
Yeah. I think
you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're talking about diversity in where you went to school, social class, economic class, definitely gender, all of that. And to your point about being a black woman in tech, I just hosted a panel discussion about it. And I wasn't involved in finding the panelists myself. I was helping someone out with that, but it was all black male panel. Finding a black woman in tech was just we were trying, and it's just so hard. And that's one reason why we need networking groups like that. And I need to get out and meet people and so I can make those connections. But that's what it is, because it all rolls downhill. I know as a black man, and let's be real, in Charleston, as a black man, with the way that I talk and the way that I look and everything, doors are not as closed for me as they are for other people. I
appreciate you acknowledging your privilege, because I think that's something that is largely unsaid. Especially with men. Let me just be real with everybody. A lot of men in my life. I got a lot of, I don't want to say I got more male friends, because that sounds problematic as fuck, but I've got a lot of male friends. And so one thing that's a point of contention for me is if you're in if I'm in community with you on a deep level, the expectation is that you kick in those doors for me. You believe in my work enough to kind of bring me in these rooms, in these spaces. Fletcher has done that. Alvin Johnson has done that for me, and some other folks too. So it's really good to hear you acknowledge acknowledge your privilege in that way. Let me switch gears just a skosh, because I really do like the fact. I like talking to people, interesting people, and I like talking about what personally interests them. Because you're not just business, right? You're not just participating in capitalism. You're not just a man that's going to put out all these things and have these ideas. I want to know, because we met up real quick in the Whole Foods parking lot to exchange some gear. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know this about you. So tell us more about your other interests, because you be you don't promote nothing.
No, I don't. And I got to get a lot better at doing that. But so originally I thought that I was going to play professional basketball, and I got pretty close. Wow. I ended up tearing my Achilles, but my senior year of high school, I went to a smaller private school, but I led the state in scoring. I'm anti-passing the ball.
Oh, wow. Iverson.
Yeah, I was full on Iverson, Kobe. That was my style.
Oh, shit.
And then I went off to college to play ball, and college really, I had built college up in my mind to be something that it ended up not being. So I came back home and was just training for these pro tryouts. And I was training with Herbert Johnson at the Herbert Johnson Track and Field Academy.
Ooh.
And I don't know if anyone knows Herbert Johnson, if that name rings a bell, but this is interesting because he's a track and field coach, obviously. And so, but he had a real dip in people interested in track and field, because it's kind of a niche sport. Mm-hmm. So he was simply training me for basketball. It was just me and him out there. Mm. And then he was like, I'm gonna start helping out coach track over at Burke, blah, blah, blah. So he starts bringing one of his throwers over to work out. He's like, I think this thrower has some potential, blah, blah. So it's me and this thrower working out with Coach Johnson, doing separate workouts, obviously. The thrower was Raven Saunders.
Get the hell out of here. What?
No, so Coach Johnson's the genius. And that's just a wild story, because you see her now and I'm just like, that's Raven who used to steal my Gatorade. But
I got to get Raven on here for real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Now, April's the architect. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted real quick, but April's the architect in the chat. April, I know I didn't say it back to you. Yes, You're coming on. April's gonna come. She just dropped us some little nuggets for about land trust and whatnot. I love it, April. We're gonna get to it after
I love land trust.
Yeah, and that's what you and I we talked about, going back to our initial like, okay, people connecting me with you. That's what we talked like you and I want to apologize too in retrospect. I didn't probably give you enough time. I didn't set up a call. After I get off live streams, I am like a mile a minute doing stuff. But the initial exchange that you and I shared was, hey, you trying to start a real estate club? And I'm like, well, it's not going to work unless it's land trust, like unless we're talking land trust, right? And pooling of resources in some way. And we already talked about it a little bit with affordable housing. But yeah, I know you said announcements are coming from that group, from the Black real estate group that you're starting with, Marcus. So I won't, make you say more about that. But I don't know if you want to offer up anything about land trust or anything or just the importance of it.
That's just kind of, I don't see a solution for the problem without that. Like, that's a big piece of the puzzle, along with there needs to be some legislation or some sort of regulations for some of these investment practices as well. But land trust is going to play a huge role. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just typing in the chat because we're gonna I want to have this conversation expanded a little bit to where we talk about these things and what they're designed to do. But yeah, is there anything else you want to share with folks about you? Because now we know you're an athlete, a standout athlete, and that name Herbert Frazier is a name that rings bells. I'm pretty sure, especially given knowing Raven's story and some of her educators reached out to me and told me how she basically, how that coach changed her life, like really, really helped her rise to prominence. They saw the talent. But is there anything else about you that you want to share with people? Like, why? Let me ask you this: why did you join like the Twitch chat? Like, why did you come on the Twitch or anything like that? So, I will. Coach Johnson, like, he changed my life too. Like, that's just how. He is.
Oh, I said his name wrong. I'm so sorry. What was his name?
No, you're fine. Coach Herbert Johnson.
Herbert Johnson. I don't know why Herbert Frazier's on my mind, but go ahead, Herbert Johnson. Sorry about that.
So no, he's fantastic. So he definitely, like, he had that effect on everyone. Like, he made sure we all got our degrees and everything like that, and got money to go to school. So he's fantastic. So I became familiar. I guess the story is actually kind of interesting because it all ties in together to some of the stuff we're working on and everything. So, so in real estate and in Charleston, but particularly in real estate, you really have to suppress your real self, particularly being Black. And so this was weighing on me a lot. And then when George Floyd got murdered, and then there were the riots on King Street.
Yeah.
So you see all these people, and even from their business pages, we're talking about this poor glass door that was broken and all this stuff.
The glass, the broken glass, all the glass.
Exactly. Like, oh man, like, what are we gonna do? And they didn't acknowledge any reason why this reaction might have happened or anything like that. So I fired off. If I'm upset about something, I will email the person I'm upset about or write a letter to them. I've done that since first grade. I got a funny story about that. So I fired off an email to Christian at Holy City Center, kind of about the reaction. And I did that specifically because he had written, I thought, his piece about you and a local show that I will not acknowledge. Was very good. So I was like, I'm gonna email, hey, this white man got a platform, he's gonna have to listen to me. And so
I like that.
To like inspire him to write something, and he was like, the email is pretty good. Can I just publish the email? And so I was like, I don't know. I got this image to protect because I'm a real estate agent in this white city, and I don't know, blah blah blah.
That's always we always gotta weigh that, Brandon. Like, we always gotta, go ahead, weigh that risk.
Absolutely. So I was like, what the thing that really motivated me to be like, fuck it, publish that with my face and my email address was the Post and Courier. There was like an editorial just weeping for these businesses. And so I was fed up. So I was like, publish it. And so
I didn't even see this though, Brandon. I didn't even see this. Okay.
I'll have to send it. Yeah.
I can find it. Don't.
Yeah. So even with that, like the time between I told him to publish it with like all my contact information and my picture right there, and between that time and the time that it actually published was like I was like free. I felt like I was nervous, but I felt free. Like I finally expressed an opinion on a public scale while I was about to, and not really have to hide anymore. But even with that, like even with what I wrote, I felt like I was still kind of hedging too much, and it really made me start questioning. Like, okay, why do you feel like you can't be yourself publicly? Like, what's going on with that? So then I really started following your content because he wrote about her. Let's see what she's doing.
Oh boy, sorry.
And so then that got me questioning a lot of you talk about just anti-Blackness that we don't even think about. Particularly being born and raised in Charleston, like it is ingrained in you, and you have to examine ways in which you practice that and everything. So I was like, man, so that really helped set me on this path to figure out what I was going to do. More about Charleston's business landscape is kind of funny too. I reached out to an organization because I got tired of seeing these business pages. Let me know if you want me to stop talking.
Nope, you keep, come on, come on.
Okay, so I reached out to this business organization because I got tired of seeing all these basically
predominantly
businesses,
white.
Yep, and they're talking about not what's going on to Black people, but they're talking about what's going on in these businesses. So I was like, well, I want to go shop at Black businesses, and I want Black people to own the businesses so that at least I can know something's going on. Like, we're not a monolith, and I don't agree with every Black person, but give me a fighting chance.
Right.
So I approached an organization that is known for helping small businesses, and I was like, I wrote this, would like to work with your organization to help more Black business owners and Black entrepreneurs get into business. Here's my resume. And they were kind of like, nah, we're going to have this discussion, but it's going to be with local business owners, particularly within our organization. And so I was like, well, I know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, you can assume, right?
Exactly. So I was like, well, I'm going to go start a business. So I went and got an LLC so I could do some small business consulting. And that's really through talking to local Black businesses and kind of observing the landscape through all of that, I was like, okay, well, we have some very distinct problems here. And so here we are now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you as you were talking. Michelle was like saying that she typed in the chat, she can relate. And I'm like, we all have some similar stories like that one. Where also too, like where we go to these places, we try to find the solutions, and we end up having to build it out ourselves. Because like I'm on Twitch right now because of like I could be on OM Radio. Like the vision for OM was like, hey, I'm gonna produce everything. Yo, just throw me the keys and like throw all your resources behind. Like, I'm not saying I want to be the flagship show, but I mean, they were running like Democracy Now! and pre-recorded content. I'm like, we could have a live presence and think about this, y'all. I just want to say this, and I'm not trying to hijack Brandon's conversation, but think about this, y'all. I'm learning how to run my own boards. Shout out to Jenna, excuse me, pardon me. Shout out to Jen and everybody at home that helped teach me how to run my own boards. I was producing my own content. I was recording my own interviews, away from the radio station. And yet there was what people don't understand is what really challenged me was that there was a lack of support. It was this apathy. There was this like, well, she's here and she wanted to be here, and she said that we needed more Black programming, so she's here. And it was just like you tolerating me versus welcoming me, right? And people white businesses here, white nonprofits don't get how viciously brutal that is to be tolerated and not embraced, and to be tolerated. And like they kept saying, well, we're nonprofits, so you got to keep it apolitical. Or I'm like, no, you're playing Democracy Now! For like 3 hours. And what I'm trying to say, Brandon, and not hijack this conversation, is that when you have a vision here in Charleston, those in power typically are hostile toward that. And it leads us to create our own vehicles. I don't know if that even felt related, like it related to what you said, but
100%, because it's just like, especially, and I don't put too much, like I know the big black square movement of Instagram 2020, like I don't put too much stock in stuff like that, but I was like, if you're kind of saying the right things and then I reach out to you because I'm like, okay, you're going to help. And then you leave me hanging. And I'm like, damn.
But Brandon, this what really really like blows my hair back is that I really expected someone like you, and I'm not trying to trip, like, but somebody like male, like you said, gotta sound like you got his stuff together, and you're often met with the same type of resistance. That's crazy. I don't know. Yeah.
And I think the problem is, for me, let's see, how do I want to phrase this? So I could be successful. Well, I guess in my background, so I didn't come from much money. Like I grew up in a trailer park, so I've got that in my frame of reference as well. And so, you're taught, you can pull yourself up and do this and do that. And so in my mind, I'm at least equal in terms of hard work, talent as the white men that I see succeeding in Charleston.
Right.
And so for me to accept even 99% of what they get is me selling myself short. And I can't make that compromise, especially I grew up poor. And so I'm okay. I know how to be poor and happy, but I don't know how to be like, I haven't found an amount of money yet that's going to make me be like, okay, well, I can compromise this amount of myself and I can still be happy.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
No, right. Yeah. Like exactly that. Like we can live with, like, same with me. Like I've made a number of decisions in the last year that probably would confound people personally, but like I rather do what I'm doing now, maintaining my integrity versus taking some sort of, either reduction in pay, some sort of discount. Like I'm not gonna, I'm gonna make sure that the conditions are optimal for me to show up 100% me. Yeah, I think this is the part of the conversation I think is very important. And you did speak to your biracial identity, but I think people need to understand that like you're a black man, you're seen as a black man in the public eye, and just in general. I think it's important for people to hear you say, you hear you outline your difficulties in trying to gain access to certain spaces and opportunities, and now also to access to capital as well. What can I ask you? This is kind of self-indulgent. So you and I have also had a conversation, very albeit brief, about venture capitalism here, and we don't have to mention names and nothing like that. No. But you and I both hit the same brick wall with venture capitalism here. Can you just tell anything you want about that experience with venture capitalism and trying to see the dream and get access to capital?
So that whole industry needs to be, along with like a bunch in America, but that just needs to be torn down, start over. Yeah. I mean, as I wrote down the stats today, so in 2020, 0.67%. Okay. So 2/3% of all venture capital funding went to Black founders.
Wow.
Like it's wild, and it's so network based, and it's so white male based, and yeah. So the main problem with the system, and this is where I think that someone is thinking on the same wavelength as me, and I guess I talk too spicy. I don't know. when you're like, wait a second now, is that there has been a big push in venture capital to become more diverse, but it's more diverse in the sense of, okay, well, you still have to go to Stanford, and you still have to but you can be Black or woman now, and it's one of those systems where the people who are selected to increase diversity either aren't given the power to actually make a difference, or they're selected because they're so mediocre and incompetent and don't want to change diversity. They just want to be the only one in it.
Wait, I gotta give you a Funk Master Flex drop.
Now listen, that's called motherfucking bars, nigga.
Okay, absolutely. Some people just trying to preserve their spot. Okay.
Correct. Like it's a flawed system. You got these people selecting, okay, well, I'm gonna bring you in to change the system when they don't want to change the system. No. And there's also a bias where, okay, well, I've been selected, So maybe the system isn't so bad, so it doesn't need, well, no, wrong. It needs drastic change.
Right. Just one or two of us or five of us making it is not dismantling not attacking the issue at its root, like, at all. And it's that thing that meritocracy bullshit that I think that folks force feed, especially black people, force feed us. Like, oh yeah, if you only work hard, and look, Obama made it. Or, look at this venture capitalist here in Charleston. He made it. He's sitting on a number of boards and it's like, that's not enough. That doesn't really make, I guess I don't want to say no to everything, but venture capitalists, that route is not the route for me. I'd rather talk to somebody who wants to invest, who has capital, who just wants to talk, like, who is passionate about what I do and wants to brainstorm it. We can brainstorm and talk about the future of Charleston Activist Network Media. But I'm the venture capitalist, and it also feels a little, I'm gonna use my own phrase, auction blocky. Like, like you gotta kind of get greased up for masses auction. And when it comes to black businesses, I think it can get a little like, you have to perform your oppression or perform something to get access, as opposed to showing up like the white boys with the doc shoes and the and the bangs, and they just
write out an idea on a napkin and they want to give you $100 million in funding.
You know what I'm saying? Seriously, like, and no shade to no Citadel grads, but like you just the network part, like, that's the biggest thing in the Citadel. Look at Harry. Sorry, these are my comments, not Brandon's. Well, like knuckleheads like that fail up because of this so-called network, and they are viewed as viable, like, leaders of business or commerce, and I'm like, how?
What does he know? Like,
what does he know?
Your comments. I co-sign those.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But I mean, like, what are we doing? And so the whole industry, and that's, I have a problem with any industry that has been complicit in these inequalities, and there hasn't been any shift in leadership or power. You can look at that locally. We got the CVB.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get into that. I'm telling you, we're gonna get to that after, like, at once I hopefully you'll have time to join us in the chat, because I'm gonna jump right into
absolutely.
it. Yeah, because and hopefully y'all, I know y'all, it's Friday, I know it's TGIF. This is a good one today. I got curriculum, I got a lot of stuff that's really interesting. So just hang if you can. All right, but no, keep going. Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt your thought, but yeah, CVB, you seeing where all the power and access to capital is centrally located in a place for where only white folks can have access to, or certain wealthy individuals, not just white, but certain wealthy individuals. Yeah,
exactly. And that whole, like, that's flawed from the top. Like, come on, what are we doing? Yeah. But there's like several different organizations here, whether it's in tech, food and bev, whatever, that have been complicit in these inequalities. So if you're not going to change leadership, then you need to put forth a plan to repair the damage you've done, and a plan moving forward. And the plan needs to be drastic, and it needs to be immediate. And if you don't see that, if we're not seeing that change as the public, then particularly if you're getting any public funding for your organization, then I need to know why you still have a job.
Right? Why don't you have to prove like what you're doing is effective? Why don't they have to? They need to be held to account, for sure. And I know that
I can't even find. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You can't even find. Keep going.
So I can't even find, like, with all the data we have today, I've tried to find just like racial demographic issue information from several industries locally. Can't find it. Yeah,
no, that's not unintentional. And it's also like what you don't. So this is the thing. This is another former sales executive here. What gets measured gets managed. So, like, if you're not measuring it, you're not even trying to address the issue. And so part of it is acting. And I say this often as it pertains to either black intellectual thought historically that's existed in this state that has been relegated to obscurity. I say this often, like, that again, even with the own thing, being ignored can be just as violent as like, okay, we're going to blackball Mika out of these circles. Being ignored and having no one pay particular attention to the disparity. None of these groups, to to your earlier point, we saw a lot of performative actions around the racial reckoning that wasn't during the 2020 protests and rebellion here in Charleston. What we didn't see are how it really translated into perhaps economic strides. And when we had something in place like the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation, when we had something like that had potential to emphasize Black wealth and Black economic development, we saw the city not even, they were like, nah, but look at the business district that they're now supporting. We're seeing like, you know what I mean? Like, I know I just ranted a little bit, but we're seeing what you really care about. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you look at like the leadership of the nonprofit on the business improvement district. And you're like, oh, I recognize those names.
Yep. Oh, can I indulge me with this? Do you do that too? Like you like who's? Oh. I'm like, oh yeah, I had lunch with you. Oh, you promised me this. Oh, you said you was gonna be. You gave me $200 in CashApp, but nothing real. Yeah, you watch that stuff too?
I do that all the time. And I love doing it because I will give you the benefit of the doubt, like within reason on a first face-to-face. Yeah. And I'm going to just say, all right, this is what I see the problem is, and you tell me what you're going to do. And then I'm going to hold you to that. And if I don't see anything happening and if it's not happening fast, you just kind of, okay, well, we're going to get along we'll do this eventually, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay. I know what time it is then, and you don't get any benefit of the doubt. And then I'm like, all right, well,
yep, we know
what to find a way to get through this and run through you.
Yeah, so as I when I left, when Cypress let me go, and I said, you know what, I'm not even really going to search for no real 40-hour-a-week employment situation. I wanted the flexibility to continue to create this content and build this out. When I did that, a lot of well-meaning white folks reached out to me and tried to connect me with people in institutions. One of them is the one we were kind of talking around the edges with the venture capitalism, but people kept trying to introduce me to people and leaders, and it just never really panned out. I wanted to ask you personally, as someone whose experience with entrepreneurship here is probably a lot similar to mine. How do you kind of manage being disappointed, having these meetings, the endless cups of coffee, the endless lunches over a nice salad? How do you kind of not give up after all these pointless meetings?
I guess
I don't know.
I guess we kind of talked about it yesterday with the toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So stay with me. So I have been socially conditioned to really to channel any disappointment or anything into anger or something along those lines. So I have through growth, I've moved away from channeling everything into anger because that's not healthy and it did not serve me well at all.
Yeah, don't do that.
But I do, I take the disappointment, I take it in, I try to make sure that I realize, it's not a reflection on me. But then I use that energy to all right, well, I'm going to set out to show you you're wrong.
So you kind of
it's exhausting.
It's freaking exhausting. It is people don't understand. That's why I appreciate, and I said well-meaning white folk or well-meaning non-Black POC folk. I appreciate your effort, but sometimes I feel like there isn't really much thought put into will this work? Is this person going to be, this person share Mika's values, even a little bit? I sometimes I wonder what people were thinking. I hate to say that whenever they broker a conversation between me and someone they think might help, I always ask them what was you thinking? But
no, you're right, because it's you set me up for failure. What are you doing?
This is exhausting. I felt it's times where I've cried, not just I literally sat and cried because the person someone had teamed me up with was really hostile. Oh, do you believe in a victim mindset? This is a Black man asking me whether I believe in a victim mindset when it comes to reparations, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I was the civil rights struggle was all about what are you almost making it feel like I had an invalid grievance if I center race and inequity. It's really draining and emotionally overwrought. All right. Well,
it makes you think you're like gaslit into thinking that you're wrong.
Right.
That's basically what it feels like.
Right. You put yourself in that position. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, you're not talented. And that goes back to kind of what you've been talking about with like worshiping at the feet of Black mediocrity.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I love that Bell Hooks quote. It's like, y'all, you know, they will. And we've seen that. No shade, because I got to get better with that. But like no shade to those who did come up during the summer 2020. Like no shade for you getting realizing the success. But what I've seen lifted up, and this is just the truth, this shit is mid. It's mid-range reefer. It's all stems and seeds and shit. It's not. It ain't Kush. It ain't OG Kush. It ain't none of that. I don't even smoke like that. But I'm just saying, like they will like lift up mid-ass like work, and I'm like, damn, I'm up here producing the whole show, like from my living room or from my apartment, and it's like, what's good? But that's the other thing. They want ready to serve. Like they want heat and serve. They don't want vision and
correct.
Yeah, so that's something. Well, I'm gonna end it there, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell folks where to connect with you or how to connect with you.
Definitely. So I'll drop everything in the chat.
Okay,
I'm about
good.
to hop over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. Got some things on the horizon coming up. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be good for everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited to just see you, win, lose or draw, just to see you kind of just have the ability to pursue whatever you want in Charleston. That's not usually easy. So I appreciate you, brother. I'll see you in the chat.
No, thank you. All
right, peace. All right. We're gonna play Brandon's theme song. Go ahead, John Tesh. John Tesh made that, y'all. Yeah. I already have it open. So that was good, though, right? That was good. Y'all, some of y'all met Brandon for the first time by face. I think it really worked out. I just and I like the way the conversation went. Like we just kind of felt like a handball bouncing off like a wall. Like I like that conversations go that way sometimes, especially with people I know personally. So I want to also like have Brandon back on at a later date to continue to talk about perhaps maybe specific instances or specific encounters in business. I don't know the best way to say it. But I thought was a fruitful conversation, because especially with the Black folk in the chat who are taking up space here and centering their own experiences here, whether it be political, whether it be as an organizer, whether it be as someone, an entrepreneur, a former employee of a major tech firm here. All of that is important. I want to just say, especially you, Kia and K-Bells, thank y'all, and Michelle, thank you for contributing to that conversation with your own experiences and insights. Again, the anecdotal is valid, right? So to that point, I know it's 9:19. I'm telling y'all, I want y'all to stay put. Stay put. I'm gonna close out this email. I'm gonna close out Zoom. So this right here, this is a slide deck from my time when I worked with Cypress and I created the curriculum for the Giving Project. Again, I'm gonna say this again. I know you already heard this. We know what it is now, okay? Giving Project is part of the Giving Project network. This is some of the most to me exciting work that I've been a part of. And so basically cohort about 20, well, I try to start out with 20 people. Some of them are in the chat. Some of them are lurkers, which I love. They're watching. But I led a cohort of, over a dozen folks across race and class. So a lot of Black folk, some people that were high net worth individuals to your regular degular everyday grassroots organizer, right? And so it ran the gamut of race and class and gender. And in this space, we wanted to provide a political education to get them ready for the fundraising, the grassroots on the ground fundraising. All the political education that I was charged with crafting was supposed to get them past the 101, the racial justice or equity 101 conversation, and let them understand the root causes of a lot of this economic disparities of these many economic disparities, the root causes, the origins of capitalism, how capitalism was very much born through the plantation economy that emerged here in southern states, but and emerged really here. It flourished. the plantation economy flourished in places like Charleston. And so you have to start with showing people like, hey, this is how we got here, before you kind of send them out there like, okay, so now you get it. Now you know how important it is for us to create a grant for organizations in both North and South Carolina who are doing great work on the ground. So now you know how important that work is. Now you can advocate for it more strongly, because now you know the history, and you understand it's not just capitalism, it's racial capitalism. And this version of capitalism that we all participate here in the continental U.S. is very unique, and it's very uniquely brutal here. And it's uniquely brutal because what drive industry today, what drives these banks today, a lot of it can be tied directly to the exploitation of African labor, the exploitation of the exploitation and the murder and genocide of indigenous peoples. All of that started. And all of that was sped up with the plantation economy and its emergence, right? So this is the slide. You got Pauline Murray up here. Hey, we got Maud Callan here. Got our first representatives here. Reconstruction, some cotton. So a woman on Catfish Row down there. Think Porgy and Bess. Got some black Indians, some black Indians here, so on and so forth. Cotton, some rice, right? All right, so let me stop acting like this is picture pages. But what I wanted to do, hold on, let me close this out. What I wanted to do was and if y'all want access to this slide deck, let me know, because it still has all the hyperlinks. So this conversation with Brianna Joy Gray and Eddie Glaude here. Fun fact, I introduced Eddie Glaude to speak at my college when I was in undergrad. Have no memory of it, but I found the program. When I moved into this space, I found the program. That's proof that I introduced him, and do not remember it. Did a lot back then. This is another interesting conversation from the EPI, the Economic Policy Institute. And so I want to get to this, the roots of the racial wealth divide. But let's break it up a little bit. Let's start with, this is the book that I was remiss. If you are watching live or later and you are part of my cohort, right? I'm so sorry I did you a disservice, because we can't talk about any of this. We can't talk about black commerce. We can't talk about building black wealth without first talking about this book. The book is called The Color of Money. I'll let the author of the book, I got put onto this book in 2017. It's available. It's available on Hoopla. It's available at your local library, okay? You don't have to buy it. But I suggest you listen to it or you read it within 6 months. What I tell y'all earlier, 6 months. So this is the author of the book, The Color of Money. I always mispronounce her name, so I'm gonna let them pronounce her name. She spoke actually at the Economic Policy Institute here in this clip. And I think just the first few minutes of this conversation really encapsulates not just the book, but why we are where we are, especially here in Charleston. So without further ado, let me rewind it. Right, and if you know this book, then let me know in the chat. If you read this book, I have not finished it, but if you love Color of Law, get Color of Money. Get Color of Money, right? So Economic Policy Institute, again, that's where Jehovah Williams worked at for a moment. That's how I became more familiar with their work. But yeah, they had this conversation.
Please, we'll go ahead and get started with our book event this afternoon. Again, I want to welcome you to EPI. Thank you for coming out on this Friday in the middle of the summer. We are absolutely thrilled that so many of you are here to listen to Marissa talk about her book, The Color of Money, Black Banks, and the Racial Wealth Gap. My name is Valerie Wilson. I'm director of the program on race, ethnicity, and the economy here at EPI. And Marissa and I had the opportunity to meet in the spring of this year. We were on a panel together at another conference.
This is from 2019.
She gave her presentation, and I was sitting there thinking, I have to get her to come to EPI. I think there was something else that was scheduled that afternoon, so she had to run out, and I was like, darn, I didn't get to catch her after the event, but I did a little sleuthing and figured out how to get in touch with her. And since that time, we've been trying to coordinate when we could get her to come to EPI and give this book talk. So I am absolutely thrilled that things worked out.
Okay.
Since then, she has.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to fast forward the preamble. All right. Okay. No disrespect.
I should mention that Color of Money and Color of Law came out like the same month, and we didn't know the other was writing it, and so his is a bestseller. So I think I get some, sales because people are trying to buy The Color of Law and they accidentally buy mine.
Her book
so
is
nice.
very important.
I want to talk about the racial wealth gap, and I want to do it. I do it through looking at banks, but the racial wealth gap is massive, and it doesn't change.
This is where the volume goes out. I thought it was me and my content. I'm gonna pause it here. So she's outlining. For some reason, the audio doesn't transfer when they present the slides that she has. So a growing racial wealth gap, white families, average net worth. Actually, I can let it play because it's gonna be. I think I can. Average net worth with a college degree is about $360,000. Compare that to the average net worth of black families with a college degree, $32,000, y'all. So this is like Black Square Twitter, Black Square Instagram rather. People who were like more reactionary in the summer of 2020 and who's like, well, I'll just send Mika Cash App, or I'll just send Kia Cash App, or I'll just send Marcus like whatever, like all that ain't gonna cut it, because when you look at the gap, when you look at the chasm between white families and black families, the economic rift is so substantial that no like Band-Aid type work or no Band-Aid type advocacy is going to help make up that distance between the two. And also, what this also should tell non-black POC and white folk who are kind of just still at the one-on-one level of racial justice and haven't really done that class analysis, they love to talk about the easy to discern racism and race-related things. When you start talking about class, this is where me and white people part ways, because they don't want to have this conversation. They don't want. They feel personally indicted, which they should. And even if you grew up poor and white, there is privilege you still enjoy, and you heard Brandon speak to that a little bit as well, right? And so it's really important for people to understand that when you really want to make a change, I love the way that white folk have shown up over the past couple of years. I love the way that they've shown up as legal advisors. I love the way that they've shown up at jails to get protesters out of jails. I love the way white folk have shown up in those ways. Those are important. But the ones that I'm really looking for are the ones with access to capital, access to resources, access to wealth, or who have inherited wealth. I'm looking at y'all not to give me your money. Well, reparations is real. You can please give away your money to black people, but not to me, not the individual. We have to start investing in actual apparatus, an apparatus that actually is designed to close this gap and to close it with intention, right? Let me quiz y'all. This is a really easy quiz, open book. Martin Luther King's most famous speech was, and drop it in the chat. Martin Luther King's most famous speech was, and drop it in the chat. Oh, well, no. Let me rephrase. Market. Where was Martin Luther King's most famous speech? What event was it? What was it? Where was he at? This is easy. Okay. Where was it at? Where did Martin Luther King give his most famous speech? Like, what was the event? Okay, KCJ18 put March on Washington. Anybody else? Bueller. I'm gonna see if I can fast forward this to the part where the audio comes back.
Most of our history, the is an understatement.
Yes, in DC, but what was the event? What was the event? Here we go. Yeah, it was. I know I phrased it real crazy, but March on Washington. Okay, so y'all failed. You will close. I'll give
5%. Okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna pause this. I'll give KCJ18. I'll give you 75. I'll give you Kia 75. No, you would close. No, don't let me say. But it was so. Let me tell you how Kia and KCJ18 were almost there. I know y'all be like, "Come on, Mika." No, Joni. No. Even though that you could argue that actually, Joni, you might get like super secret extra credit. But no. Because him going down to Memphis was actually the larger point. Michelle, the Million Man marches in the 90s. Okay, so it was the March on Washington for jobs and freedom. For jobs and freedom. We love to whitewash Martin Luther King, and I've done this myself. But when I went to the DeSable this past Meekmas, right, for my birthday, and my sister-in-law and I, we went to DeSable and we went through that whole March on Washington. It was a virtual reality exhibit where they put us literally at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. But one thing they kept emphasizing with all of the posters that they gave us and all of the other things, it was they said the whole name, March on Washington for freedom, for jobs and freedom. For jobs and freedom. So the March on Washington, we love I Have a Dream and One Day My Kids and content and character and all that, but they cut it off because he started talking about them reparations. He started talking about that financial part, that economic component that a lot of people, when I encounter white people who don't feel great about overt racism and, oh, the overt racist thing happened, Mika, can you come? Oh, the overt racist thing happened here, Mika, can you say something? I'm like, that's cool, I can do that. But when we gonna have this class conversation, Ma? When we gonna have this class conversation, homie? Like, when we gonna have this deeper conversation? Because when you start talking about, that's why the presentation is called racial capitalism. We can talk about the byproducts. We can talk about the fruit from this tree that is capitalism, which is racism, which is white supremacy, right? Which is the patriarchy. Right, which is anti-black, all those things. We could talk about the fruit from the tree, but the tree right there is largely economic. The trunk, what it's made of, is largely economic, and so that's the harder part. That's the harder chasm to close with white folks and their willingness to want things to change. And there's a lot of anti-blackness and paternalism wrapped up in white folks' lack of making that critical class analysis they need that would indict them. That would put them in a position where they had to actually do something outside of cut a check for a couple $100.
That's, to say that our policy efforts at eradicating the wealth gap, such as
thank you,
they
Lil
are,
Mama,
is a total failure, is an understatement. But I think, hopefully as I go through this history, we'll understand why this gap hasn't.
And thank y'all for participating in my poll. It really means a lot.
I want to look at the role of credit policies, economic.
So this is what I like about the book. She looks at credit policies and like the history of banking, right? The Bank of America. Do y'all know its origins? M&F Bank. Do y'all know its origins? Right? These are institutions, that were around post Civil War and that have changed drastically. You wouldn't recognize bank. What was the Bank of America? Bank of America was Bank of Italy. Was that it? Right?
Theories and banks in creating and perpetuating the wealth gap. And I think it's some of the myths that we tell about markets that present the biggest obstacles to closing the racial wealth gap and achieving economic justice. And some of those myths were purposefully created. Yes. And I'll talk about some of those. For example, the promise that free market capitalism doesn't discriminate, or that free markets. So
this is what and I'm not bringing this up to be particularly tangy or spicy, but this is like the area where Will Forks, what's his name, folks? Where he, this is the analysis that he won't make for whatever reason. I don't even want to speculate as to why Will Folks acts and espouses the values he does, because they don't acknowledge the true history. Like right now on Twitter, we're literally trying to debate whether Reconstruction was a failed experiment or was it undermined by the actual government. Like there's literally a debate going on right now saying that Du Bois mischaracterized Reconstruction and that he wasn't a historian, he didn't know what he's talking about. It feels like people like a Will Folks are positioned in a place where they want to discredit the actual accounts of black people, black scholars, black intellectuals of that time, of that period, that tell you, no, all of this was constructed. Capitalism is literally performing the way it was designed to perform. But yeah, this is where a lot of people's analysis does not, right, the phrase economic justice, exactly, does not, this is where the class conversation breaks down with some people who don't want to own the history.
Offer equal opportunity for all, just based on their skill.
Basically, capitalism is not just, doesn't see color. Capitalism very much so sees motherfucking color. And you cannot sit here in the South. You cannot sit here in the South, in Charleston, where institutions now that are $1 billion or $1 million institutions were literally built on the backs, literally benefited from black labor. Literally, like that's what I tried to point out in those reels on Instagram. Was like, okay, you like those cobblestones? Well, let me tell you about the root of that. And how can you not remove slavery from the economic or the physical landscape of this city, right? And you say, well, Meek, what does it got to do with money? What the cobblestones, what the ballast stones got to do with money? Well, what's marketed as tourism? What's been commodified? How'd those stones get here? During what period? Some of them, not all of them. During what period? Right? Who was on them ships that they were in? Right? These are all real, like these are questions. I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I'm just admitting that to y'all in case something happens. I feel a little lightheaded. I don't know. Hold up. I don't feel, ooh. Okay. I feel a little lightheaded. So just, I never felt that before. But yeah, there's some of those things. Let me let this play and take a sip.
An ability to produce. Yet, of course, history reveals that markets do discriminate, or alternatively, that the American economy has never borne any resemblance to a free market. For most of our history, blacks have been excluded from occupations, schools, neighborhoods, trades. Their property was not protected by law or contract at certain points in time.
I'm all right.
In each historical moment when wealth was being created, whether it was through the Homestead Acts, through FHA mortgage credit, through the GI Bill, black communities were shut out of this wealth accumulation. And it wasn't an accident. Moreover, and this is where I focus on the banking in my book, is at certain pivot points in history, specifically during Reconstruction and during the Civil Rights era, where black communities are demanding state intervention and capital to remedy past wrongs. The rhetoric of free market capitalism is used as a weapon to cut down these claims.
Right, and so I'm not gonna watch the whole thing. Thank y'all, I'm okay. There's plenty of sugar and I ain't gonna admit to y'all what I think it is because I'm embarrassed. But no, it's plenty. I got the tea right here that's got plenty of honey in there and all that good stuff. Thank you. It's herbal tea. It's not no caffeine in it. But yes. Okay, so I don't want to play too much of this, even though I think the first 10 minutes are extraordinarily valuable. If you get a moment, go to the Economic Policy Institute's The Color of Money is the name of the video. And it's really worth, like, put this on and just chill. Put this on, listen as you clean up and whatnot. But I thought that was very helpful. I wanted to show some other clips, but I'm going to keep it because she showed up on, right here. We got to do this. 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 This is important to this conversation.
America. But of course,
this framing was good. Shout out to Michelle Norris of NPR.
The data shows that the median white family has 10 times more wealth.
And Kia, to your earlier point, you said something about like the state. It's amazing that the state of wealth has decreased. It has gone through, in some instances, it has decreased a lot. And in some instances, it just hasn't changed since Reconstruction, right? And I'm gonna get to my slide deck and point out some staggering to me still, statistics and some facts about that.
Than the average black family. Our next guest, Mirza Baradaran, is a law professor at the University of California, Irvine. In her award-winning book, The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap, she examines how black communities have been systematically shut out of the banking system. It's a big brick in the wall of structural racism. And our Michelle Martin has been looking into these issues even before the current crises that we've been talking about that are sweeping America. But of course, this conversation just shows how prescient these warnings have been. This conversation is part of our ongoing initiative about poverty, jobs, and economic opportunity in America. It's called Chasing the Dream.
Professor Mirza Baradaran, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So your latest book is called The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap. And it's specifically about the role of black banks. But your work is so much more than that. One of the things that you say in the book is that the wealth gap is where historic injustice breeds present suffering.
There you go.
But this is rooted not just in slavery, But in the history...
So when you talk about the hysteria around CRT in schools, banning books, reviewing the state's policy around which books will be introduced to student libraries and public schools, when you talk about that, what that really is, among a lot of other things, what that really is, that push to be anti-CRT, anti-Black history, anti-1619, you're seeing a lot of energy being expended there because they don't want you to draw this conclusion. And I'm using they in this really weird way. Like, the man don't want you to know this, y'all, but you get what I'm saying. Like, folks who know that this is a wealth issue, right? That this is born of that same white supremacist tree. They don't want you to understand that what we're experiencing now was orchestrated, was architected at during this country's founding, right? And especially during the rise of the plantation economy, and especially during Reconstruction, where right before when the redemption period was about to happen, and the redemption period was violent. The redemption period that ushered us into Jim Crow, that was particularly violent. We're talking about Black banks, Black businesses, Black towns being bombed. Tulsa is just one that don't even really factor in, because that's a little bit, because Jim Crow Jim Crow started when. But you get what I'm saying. Like, so at almost every turn when we talked about it with Ida B. Wells, you know, her family, her friend, her extended family, her friend, Mr. Moss, the shop owner, who was competing against another white shop owner. What did they do? They lynched him. The Black postmaster got this job that the white folks felt like they were entitled to. That postmaster job would probably inevitably position him to raise to a certain economic status. What did they do? They lynched him. Like, the redemption period, that the people who are so wedded to lost cause and all this other bullshit, what they excused and what they refused to look at was the violence that was targeted to neutralize Black economic power, right? It wasn't just, oh, you want to lynch a Black man because you think he's subhuman. No, you want to prevent that Black family, that indigenous family, that Chinese worker who's building railroads and trying to establish community on the West Coast, or in certain other areas where railroads were being built. You know, Chinese Exclusion Act. That was all designed to keep us out of this game, keep us out of this economic position. It was to stymie economic mobility, not just to dehumanize us and subjugate us. We were not supposed to be here, other than for the express purpose of labor. We were not intended to be recognized as fully formed humans, and you can see that quite literally in our country's founding documents, right?
Following slavery, how does slavery, which ended in 1865, have present-day consequences?
Is the question.
One of the things I try to do in the book is to look at the myths that we tell ourselves about sort of American capitalism, and then kind of show the reality and show the gap between, right? So the myth is that once slavery was ended, there was sort of capitalism and free markets, and since then there has been equality. And the reality is, on the economic front, the American markets were not open and capitalistic and free, right?
They weren't.
Specifically in the protection of Black property, which was never there, exclusion from certain jobs and markets. So after the Civil War and emancipation, instead of getting land, the freed slaves did not get land. They got this savings bank. They put their money in the savings bank, trusting it, thinking that it was backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government, which it was not. It was advertised to be, and they lost half their wages. And this is
they stole our wages. So we banked. You told us to bank, we banked. You told us 40 acres and a mule was coming. We got ready. We try to buy land, acquire land. We put our money in the bank. Y'all said, okay, we got you. It's going to be federally backed. They stole our money. They stole our wealth.
A time of heavy segregation and sharecropping, right? Sharecropping is an arrangement that is a debt arrangement. It was
absolutely, Kia.
Freed slaves going back to the plantations, some of which they had just sort of escaped from, and growing cotton in the same way they did under slavery, except for they were no longer slaves. They were, sharecroppers of the land. They were tenants. That was not a wealth-building mechanism. Meanwhile, a lot of, white Southerners and Westerners and Easterners were able to get benefits from the Homestead Act. If you look at, the 1934 era New Deal measures, those are much more consequential to today. So what the 1934 FHA and GI bills did is sort of cement that racial segregation into law and policy. And what they did
it made segregation legal, right? So these are the policies that literally, as she said, cemented this practice of separate and unequal. And it also just explicitly prohibited black folks and people of color. Again, can't forget the indigenous, can't forget the Chinese and countless other ethnic groups that were here that are less talked about. But they designed policies that kept us out of participating in this nation's economy through actual policy. So when someone says, how can something that like Michelle Norris queued it up just perfectly, right? She teed up the ball rather quite perfectly. How can you take something from the 1860s and say that, hey, it's wreaking havoc on black homes here in 2021, 2022? And you can quite literally look at it. So if you're excluded, if your great-great-granddaddy, if my great-great-granddaddy Enoch Gadsden on Edisto wasn't allowed to participate in this economy, was only allowed to get low wage jobs or jobs as sharecroppers and whatnot, where you constantly you're in debt generationally. You tell me how that doesn't whereas we live in a city where I know a lot of white folk can trace their whole fucking family back to the fucking Mayflower, you know what I mean, to the fucking Santa Maria, y'all can trace it back. And not only can y'all trace it back, right, because y'all was seen as humans, you can trace back the wealth. Your great granddaddy, your great grandmama was able to own a business or participate in the economy and start building wealth, or building a financial basis. We were not afforded that. We literally were. And when we did try to become legislators, when we tried to become economic leaders, when we tried to build our own banks, our own hotels, you bombed them. Of course, not every black city was bombed, but if it wasn't that explicit violence, it definitely was that other type of violence in the form of policy that put a stranglehold on a lot of black businesses. And what I want to do here is I want to keep going. I literally can sit and watch this and read her book, listen to her speak. I can literally listen to it for hours on end, but we don't have the luxury of time. So what I wanted to do is go back to the slide deck that I have here from my giving project, right? And what I had to do, again, provide that political education for folks to help to understand the roots of the racial wealth divide, right? And Michelle, I want to bring up that point you made of just, or at least just dropping that phrase, economic justice. We're not merely just talking about just wealth in these really mainstream ways. You have to put the justice in this conversation. And I want to use this portion too to kind of springboard me to the next area of focus. Hold on, let me just see how much I want to do this. How much of this? All right, so yeah, we'll start here because this is the Brookings Institute right here. Okay, a close examination of the wealth in the United States finds evidence of staggering racial disparities. At $171,000, the net worth of typical white family is nearly 10 times greater than that of a black family, $17,150 in 2016. The gaps between wealth, the gaps in wealth between black and white households reveal the effects of accumulated inequality and discrimination, as well as differences in power and opportunity that can be traced back to the nation's inception. The black-white wealth gap reflects a society that has not and does not afford equality of opportunity to all of its citizens. Y'all also got my booster shot yesterday, so I don't know if I'm feeling a little unwell from that, because I feel fine, but I don't know if that booster shot is fucking with me a little bit. So pardon me if you hear me do these these sharp intakes of breath. I'm just trying to slow down a little bit. It might be because I had a yerba mate and I kind of chugged it. I think it might be that. It might be the caffeine. All right. This is important though. Efforts by black Americans to build wealth can be traced back throughout American history. But these efforts have been impeded in a host of ways, beginning with 246 years of chattel slavery and followed by congressional mismanagement of the Freedmen's Savings Bank. We just heard her talk about this, how black folks, after slavery, we entered our money into this bank. So right, by congressional mismanagement, and it was intentional mismanagement. It was a looting of black wealth. It was an intentional looting of black wealth, just like they looted indigenous land, right? So congressional mismanagement of the Freedmen's Savings Bank, which left 61,144 depositors with losses of nearly $3 million in 1874. Again, congressional mismanagement of the Freedmen's Savings Bank, which left 61,144 depositors with losses of nearly $3 million in 1874. The violent massacre decimating Tulsa's Greenwood District in 1921, a population of 10,000 black folk, y'all, that thrived as the epicenter of African American business and culture, commonly referred to Black Wall Street, and discriminatory policies throughout the 20th century, including Jim Crow era's black codes, y'all. So I'm gonna fast forward to this newspaper clipping. I did a shitty job editing it. I want to fast forward to this newspaper clipping. I'm gonna go right back, right here. This was that ordinance, y'all. People talked and tweeted about this at length years ago. This was an ordinance from Greenville, South Carolina. I forgot, it was in the 40s, where it required black women to be put to work. Even if your man made enough money, even if you had enough money of your own, they was like, nah, Negro women are out here being a menace. They gotta work. And like, so basically white women missed their maids after slavery and whatnot. And so they literally created policies. So why does that matter? What does that mean? Mika, they made them work, so that means they'd be able to build wealth. No, that means that they usually were in a position to have to take low wage earning jobs and also face sexual harassment, sexual assault, and other things. But there were a lot of things where that took a black woman out the home as well, right? So that means that who's caring for your kid? Is that an extra expense? You know, are you paying someone to sit with your children? It disrupted the black family in a very basic way, and it impacted the way black people had to go about earning income. And think about all the white women who have the luxury of staying at home with their kids, especially with a black maid or a black nanny. Think about how that had ramifications for black women and their inability to take care of themselves, their health, their well-being, the well-being of their own children, right? That all impacts a lot of things economically as well. Let me read the chat. I don't want to get lost so much in my own shit. Like black people don't work hard, right? Like black people don't work hard, Joni. You said that earlier. K-Bells, you said now there are no banks. They still they still K-Bells. Ain't right? A lot of us are unbanked. That was the other part of the conversation I want to have. A lot of us are unbanked. I encountered this when I was an executive level manager at Target. So of course I've been signing up for direct deposit ever since I became a working professional out of college, right? And I remember when I started working at in retail, a lot of the younger associates and some older ones, they would come in on payday, even if it was the day off. And they were like, yeah, I owe the bank so much. It was so many predatory processes, so many predatory practices, so many illegitimate type of ways, illegitimate or unethical, let me say it, because they're legal, but they're unethical, predatory institutions like check cashing places that basically make you pay an exorbitant amount to have access to your money, especially if you're unbanked, right? So going back to the slide deck right here, they talk about Tulsa, right? So they stole our wealth from the Freedmen's Bank, which is huge. That's $3 million in 1874, right? And then they talk about Tulsa. I also told you that it wasn't just Tulsa, right? There were other townships and other black economic hubs that faced a similar fate. And then I followed up saying strictly limiting opportunity in southern states, strictly limiting opportunity in many southern states. The GI Bill, the New Deal's Fair Labor Law, and she spoke to this, Fair Labor Standards Act, exemption of domestic agricultural services and occupations. So basically the New Deal was not a new deal for us, right? So that act's exemption of domestic, agricultural, so sharecroppers, right, and service occupations, and redlining was introduced. So those are the racial covenants in which prohibited black people from living in places that benefit that were flourishing economically as well. So if you have to live in, so this is how the government created ghettos, right? So if you have to live in so-called slums that they've already been designated for this group, that will be starved of resources, that will be starved of a tax base, right? That all factors into this as well. So redlining, racial covenants, right? Wealth was taken from these communities before it had an opportunity to grow. So that's via the Brookings Institute from 2020. Let me see what y'all saying. Car title loans, all that. You have to. 20 fast food restaurants. Those are like those food swamps, and not just food deserts, but food swamps, right? And this was just a graph breaking down the economic piece. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here that I wanted to touch on. I think before I just jump out this slide deck is like this part we started getting into class after that. After folks came from a break, we started getting into class, and this is what really gets really murky. Wow, y'all both Joy and B-Man, I got you. This is what gets really murky is when you start talking about class. When you start making class distinctions, this is where you lose a lot of people, right? And so I had to define class and classism here. I'm going to transition out of this and back to some other videos real quick. Let me see. Let me read your comment. Joy, you says, how do we get these doors open when they're so tightly guarded? Fair question. It feels like we are planting seeds around the wall, so it looks nice. I got you. But the wall feels impenetrable. I got you. All right. So B-Man, you said, I know I kept saying that. B-Man, you said all of this is still happening within the USDA. Absolutely. Racist lending practices, money being withheld from black folks. Right. Think about the Pickford case that we talked about on a previous live stream. Right. So racist lending practices. Yep. So happening right now in real time. So let me to that point of like, okay, what are the solutions? Y'all know that I don't necessarily feel like I have to provide the solutions, but the conversation I had last night, baby. Woo-hoo. So I'm gonna say this, and this person doesn't mind if I say this. The conversation started off with capacity. What you mean, Mika? Personal capacity. So oftentimes, let me switch up the camera real quick. I got you, Brandon. I see you. Or rather, I see you. Right. Oh, you know that student loans and debt, all that is what somebody's gonna tell you that, Tamika, is everything racist? And I'm gonna tell you, yeah. Like the fact that we have a credit score. What other countries got credit scores? And that's an honest question. Aren't we like? Do other places got credit? Like just all that stuff was designed to create barriers to access to capital, right? But anyway, let me get focused. So last night I'm on the phone, and the conversation started with capacity, and like I'm asking this person, hey, oh, and I got the thumbnails. Oh, let me switch back. I asked this person, I'm like, hey, whenever I encounter ads. Whenever I encounter digital ads or see something pop up after a specific Google search, and it pertains to capitalism, or excuse me, if it pertains to tourism and hospitality, I ask a trusted source like, "Yo, you think the CBB placed this ad or this piece, or was it somebody else?" And like that's a constant question I ask because the CBB does place a lot of advertorials and things that look like blog posts but are really just, sponsored content or some degree or whatever it is. And so I came across a bunch of articles. Let me see. So this story popped up. I did a cursory search for something from Black-owned business. I just did something really basic, intentionally basic. So this came up. This is relatively recent. This is 6 Black-owned businesses to support in your next visit to Charleston. And this was written, but this actually popped up recently. So this is Kimberly Wilson. This is written in November 2020, right? So as we're talking about these ads and the person is saying to me, Mika, people come to me for a solution, but I'm not built to remedy this. I can offer piecemeal solutions in the form of ideas and connecting people to certain power brokers, but I don't have the solutions. I'm not built. I'm in hospitality. I'm not built that way. And then I said, you know what, the same is expected of me. Like, this largely why I've pivoted away from organizing on the ground outside of Friends of Gadsden Creek and some other things that I do. I've really scaled that down so I can come up in this space and help just articulate the issues and bring you people who are way more informed on the issue to speak to it. Because what happens to me is people always hit me up like nonstop about every issue. I'm like, I'm not a mercenary, and nor am I like the person. I can talk about the domestic violence, the cops skipping the domestic violence video training. I can't fix that. I can't get into those rooms. Like, that's not my calling. That's not my job. That's not right. So out of this kind of like frustrating conversation we're having about our each of our own individual capacities, that the person was like, you know what's missing? And I'm like, no, what's missing? A Black Chamber of Commerce for Charleston. You're gonna say to me, they already exist. Like, there's one in Beaufort, there's something in Bluffton. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Mika? What are you talking about? Right? You don't have that here. We don't have that here. I'm pulling up some articles here. Let me see. I pulled up a bunch of articles. Let me just open them up. Oh God, what's this? KCJ18, what's this? I'm gonna click that one that you just dropped in there. I'm sorry for y'all who just dropped. Black farmers, right? Exactly. Yep. Fake seed lawsuit. This is back in 2018. I mean, it goes on and on. Let me bookmark. I'm gonna bookmark this and close it because I know it got a lot of like video ads and I don't want it to start talking. But I'm gonna bookmark it under Black businesses. Absolutely. Pickford, the Pickford historic lawsuit. Let me keep going with the some of the things I bookmarked. We need a Black Chamber of Commerce. And what do you, Tamika, what do you, like, I'm gonna pull up the one in Beaufort. Where'd it go? We're gonna pull up this. This is the federal. So this is the federal, at the federal level, right? So now the question is like, so what do you mean specifically, Mika? How is this going to help? How is this going to help the situation? Let me see. Is this it? Yeah. Here's the Beaufort Chamber of Commerce. So I remember when this one formed. I'm gonna just be real. This is not. And if anyone's affiliated with the Beaufort Black Chamber of Commerce, don't get offended. It is what it is, and I'm sure there's reasons why. I'm sure there's reasons why it is what it is, right? And so the reasons. What's that? Is that? Let me stay here for a second, because I already kind of did my research. I know y'all dropping like a lot of stuff here, and I get it, and there's also a lag too. So the Black Chamber of Commerce, I remember when it came about shortly after I moved to Charleston, and I was extraordinarily hopeful. I made attempts. I wasn't, I'm relatively like, I'm not, y'all might love me, but I don't have the biggest name ID, and I definitely didn't have it when I reached out, but it was met with silence. And what I've heard through other people's experiences is that the space is not necessarily as inclusive. Now, Tamika, are you bashing Black businesses after you're trying to average? Nope, I'm not. I'm trying to say that the way that our community operates in this space is fractured, and I get why and how it got the way it did. But we have to get to a point where we start making certain resources and certain mechanisms available to everybody, and not just a certain age group. And not just a certain skill set or a certain financial industry has access to capital. Why is it important to bring up a Black Chamber of Commerce? A Black Chamber of Commerce could quite literally serve as the home. It can court dollars. It can do a lot of what the CVB does, but do it with an intentional focus on Black upward mobility, economic justice, fill in the blank. We don't have this for Charleston. And so when I said earlier that, hey, Black philanthropy, black money philanthropy and whatnot, I said that's kind of related, because this is what I often talk about with my other friends, one of which is a Wharton grad, if that has any type of if that holds any special space in your mind or your heart. My friend went to Wharton. He's very, very smart. Let me switch. So what you have in place of actual building of black wealth, right? And like the Instagram accounts don't, let me just click on it real quick because see what y'all, this one. Yeah, I just clicked on it. So this actually, this is, please do not take this the wrong way, Michelle, for dropping this link. But this is exactly, now I don't even know much about this organization, but this is where we kind of get to a problem in Charleston where, and I swear to God, I'm not coming at anybody who really ascended and was successful with shouting out black businesses. Shouting out and lifting up black businesses will always have a place. The blackcharlestonpros.org will always have a place in, we always going to need that. We're going to need the black pages. We're going to need all of these institutions, all of these outlets that move more in like, that act more as like a networking hub or a listserv or, has a membership and all that others. You need that, and hopefully hopefully within these organizations, a conversation about creating a chamber will emerge, or something that acts like a black chamber of commerce will emerge. I'm hopeful, right? I'm not without hope and faith. And I'm looking at the website here, but what Charleston has conditioned us to accept and to look for is the mere mentioning of the problem and then a list. It's largely what people wanted Charleston Activist Network to be, or thought it was. They thought it was just a one-stop shop for all the blackity black, all the brownie brown, all the LGBTQ, all of the special, marginalized. They thought this was going to be a place where I connect you. And I think that's what the initial founders, shout out to Courtney, Belgium, I think that's what some of the original founders wanted. They wanted to create a one-stop shop. Y'all know how I feel about that shit. We ain't shopping for fucking social justice. We ain't shopping for racial justice, right? We don't do that. This ain't that, right? Right, we need to give you that political education before you out here making fools of yourself, putting up these black squares, right? We need to make sure that you got the same analysis that I got, right? Before you start running out here trying to solve the problem. So, but what Charleston has conditioned us to believe and to look for are lists, are influencers who stand next to companies. They want marketing tools for black businesses versus real fully formed intellectual thought that actually will position black people to get a piece of the pie, a piece of the Indigo Road pie, piece of the CVB pie, piece of the airline pie, piece of the Delta pie. So the list is just marketing. Y'all want marketing. Y'all don't really want the actual apparatus that could court the literal millions and billions of federal dollars. And the fact that we do have elected officials who do push in a very honest, I think I'm gonna use the word earnest way. I think they are pushing for economic mobility and economic viability within black communities, in traditionally Gullah Geechee communities. I think we do see some of that. What we don't see is an elected official championing the need of a black business, black chamber of commerce that could be the actual financial nucleus, the actual apparatus that collects and courts all of the diversity bucks that people ran to this state. I would say the past 3 years, pre George Floyd, there was significant interest. This is when you start hearing the plantation problematic tourism talk. Significant interest in black and Gullah Geechee, a cultural tourism, culturally specific tourism, black businesses, black this and that, and we didn't have this unified apparatus to collect the money. And what did we have? But what do we have instead? What do we have instead? There you go, wine and food. There you go, Kia. What do we have instead? And this is what I'm trying to indict. When I talk about dark money, when I talk about Darren Goss, which came up in the conversations last night, and I was like, wow, I made that connection, but you made that connection too. Okay, so I'm not crazy. You're a very smart person. Okay, you get it. Okay. So what took the place of an actual chamber in Charleston or in the Low Country? Philanthropy. Oh, no. We're not going to let you create an actual powerful, influential chamber. We're not going to do that. We're going to get you with representation. We're going to talk about the museum opening up an event space, because that's what it's going to house history, but it's an event space. It's an event space that makes what? Mad revenue over what? weddings. I was in one at the Gibbs with the mayor playing on the keys at the reception. the aquarium event space. Going back to philanthropy now. I know I just took y'all somewhere else. Going back to philanthropy, like some of the stuff that we look at, as wins that really just a revenue generator for the city, right? Right. So they really want that revenue from that event space, right? And the museum will benefit, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So go back to that. So what else has replaced that? So what else has filled that gap? That where a black chamber of commerce could exist? CCF. Oh, you're gonna have to rely on philanthropy. We're not gonna help you. We're not gonna let you or help you create a mechanism that's actually gonna influence economic policy. That's actually gonna come and confront this business investment district bullshit that they're proposing right now. Right? We're not actually going to give you something where you have to be accountable, like that we have to be accountable to this other thing. No. We're just going to get our token leader that we've all made you trust, even though he's in the pocket of billionaires and makes over $250,000 in a salary annually, at the very least. We're going to have you trust that person, that black guy, versus actual economic empowerment and building black wealth. Right? You feel what I'm saying? So philanthropy is now so now we gotta wait on overseer Goss. We gotta wait on overseer Goss. Oh, is he gonna cut us a check from Facebook? Is he he went to Washington, came back with a bag of money. Oh, gave me a $10,000 grant. Oh, thank you, overseer Goss. Like and that's my characterization of it. He can take it and he can be a mad. But that's exactly what they're setting up. They're setting up a system. It's either marketing, list of black businesses. It's either marketing, advertorials. Okay, if you're black and you make baskets, we'll put you in the CVB. We'll put you in these advertorials. We'll put you in Essence magazine, even though you're a black man. And Essence is for black women. We just put black is black, so we'll put you in the advertorials. It's marketing, and representation, and philanthropy, when it should be economic power. You feel what I'm saying? Let me see what y'all saying in here. K-Bells, earlier you said one of your biggest issues is pay equity. Ooh.
Now listen, that's called motherfucking bars, nigga.
I'm tired of side hustles. Being underpaid leads to side hustles, gig economy, all right, which lead to running around sinking dollars into business and getting caught in two rat races. You couldn't have said it better, all right, right? And so here come Honor. I'm glad you agree with what I'm saying, right? Goss is going to change, and right, and that's the thing. So we made Darren and CCF the proxy for Black Power. We've literally made him the proxy for Black Power, and I always say like you can see what kind of policies this man is lifting up. You can see what type of policies CCF is lifting up. Just look at what we just outlined with Ben Navarro and Meeting Street Schools and their posts, their self-congratulatory posts of how they align with interests that will undermine public education and create even more segregation in our school systems here, even more than I experienced as a former Charleston County school district student, right? So we've replaced economic power, that theme, with philanthropy. Now I'm gonna switch up, right? And think about how wrong that is to have to, because with traditional philanthropy, you often have to perform your oppression. There are invasive site visits potentially where there's a needlessly arduous application process. Typically, you got to be incorporated. And even to that, no shade, the Black Charleston Pros, I saw one of the requirements was that you had to have an EIN. Why? Like seriously, like what we can't, the master's tools, create a black organization. Don't worry about whether or not Uncle Sam is surveilling them. What about like being incubated for ideas? What about like why do you have to prove that you are participating in capitalism? I know y'all might say, well, Tamika, it's a business. No. We got to decolonize that shit. Because we got hustlers. We come from hustlers. My mama's a hustler. You feel me? All right? And it was a hustler, and I mean that in a way that was substantial. Ribs was not touching growing up. My mom was the breadwinner. Sorry, Dad, it's the truth. My mom was a breadwinner. I get my hustle from her. There's a whole economy that the black people we interact with that's not incorporated. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Like, I'm not bashing them at all. I'm saying that, like, I've never seen that on like a business group sign up. I've never been asked for my EIN. I've never been asked for my EIN at a tech meetup or nothing like that. So let's not try to emulate the master. Like, we ain't trying to be the buckra. No shade. This is a place of love, and I seriously mean that. I know I can be tangy and tart in my dispensing of critique, but please hear me on that, right? We can't create the black version of white nonsense, right? It doesn't even speak to us. So let me play this. There was some clips about, so what I wanted to do is familiarize y'all with the United States. For those who don't know, the United States Black Chamber, United States Black Chambers, right? They have all this stuff on the website. They're talking about the holidays here. Talking about they teaming up with Uber and Lyft for rides, for doing various things, backing black businesses. So we need to start advocating. We need to start calling our elected officials and say, hey, we need an official chapter here in Charleston. We need a black chamber in Charleston for the we need a tri-county black chamber, an official branch, official charter, of is that the word, charter or chapter? I think they kind of both fit. We need to create that here. This is what we should be lobbying to the Marlins and the Marvins and the JAs and the gay and the Greek freaks and all of them. We need to be lobbying for our own chamber here, a place to house the money. And I'm surprised that an elected official fumbled that bag, because I guess you can point to the Gullah Geechee corridor, but that's not except like you can participate and become a member of that, and that's one way to do it. That is one way to. Let me not do that. That's one way to do it. But we need something else that's like strictly economic. The Gullah Geechee corridor is more history, education, helping the artisans who advance the Gullah Geechee culture. It's more about culture and history than I would say about the economic empowerment or economic justice, right? But it does have an economic justice focus in the way that it lifts up its membership base, right? So this was recent. Oh, Kamala, they giving it to you, Kamala. I ain't seen no positive Kamala news in like since she got off, since what she wore at the inauguration. Lord have mercy. Look at this, Greenwood's Women's Business District. Is that Greenwood, Oklahoma? Is that Black Wall Street? Let's click on it. Is it? It doesn't say. All right, but let me get to this clip right here. So what I want to do is just show you what other black chambers in other areas, what they look like, what they could be. So here's one. Let's start kind of close to home. Let's start in Savannah. And this is just an event, but I think it's important. This is just a social event, but at least you can see and hear and imagine. Close your eyes and listen. Imagine what a black chamber, a bustling, robust black chamber in Charleston or the Tri-County area, what that could look like.
And on New Tonight at 11, the Greater Savannah Black Chamber of Commerce hosted a sold-out gala tonight, celebrating the legacy of black businesses right here in the hostess city.
And we were there for the event at the Ralph Mark Gilbert Civil Rights Museum Annex on MLK Boulevard. And the Chamber president tells us it's important to recognize the resilience of African-American business owners after really another tough year.
Especially after COVID, a lot of our businesses shut down. Some of our businesses suffered major loss. And so we have businesses, events like this so that we can celebrate them, that we can encourage them to keep going, because black business is everybody's business, and we're just so glad to be in Savannah.
Let me tell you something. Through it all, through the Buckra bombing our shit, through the custodial stewardship shit that came about after Denmark Vesey's rebellion, where the free blacks that actually undermined Denmark Vesey actually got their own comeuppance when they were then put into financial custody of white folk, right? They had to have trustees. Through that, because that was our own Black Wall Street right there behind the Gilliard. That was actual Wall Street of black. It was called Wall Street. Had a bunch of free blacks out there, mostly mulattoes, out there thriving, right? Through it all, through the killing of Mr. Frazier, Postmaster Mr. Frazier in Lawrence County, right? In Lake City, let me say, I don't know the county, but in Lake City, South Carolina. Through it all, through the Red Summer 1919, through it all, you took $3 million from us from the Freedmen's Bank. When we came out of slavery with nothing, we built our own wealth back up. We put it in the bank you told us to put it in, and you stole our money. Through it all, Tulsa, through it all. cities underwater, literally right now. Through it all, we still spend. We still got purchasing power. We still got financial power. We still have, there are many among us who are in this position to build wealth and to pass that. And I know I'm not a capitalist, but you get what I just track with me. I know I'm not advocating for capitalism, but I am advocating for it. Look, if it's going to exist, it needs to have this type of focus, right? We still got buying power. The money we spend, not just on the fun stuff like the hair and makeup. The money that we spend, the money that black people give proportionate to white people is, we get the most and we be the poorest. There is money, there's wealth here, all kinds of wealth, not just monetary, not just financial, that's yet to be tapped into. And you look at this room, you hear the fun, you hear the music playing, and you see all these beautiful black people celebrating businesses and commerce and having a gala. Think about that. When the last time we seen a black gala on the peninsula? Right?
Celebrate this event.
For real, Kia? That was a whole black area back there, Kia. All of that was black.
It was both a celebration and an inspiring night. There were also speeches such as Michael Thurman. He's the CEO of DeKalb County. And honorees included Business of the Year. That was awarded to Stephen Moore, the owner of the Good Times Jazz Bar and Restaurant. Woman Business of the Year awarded to... And
there are black business, especially Richland County, I'm sure has more programmatic type of efforts that exist. So there is, I've seen, we've got, what is it, the AKAs do the ice ball and stuff. I know that's the AKA and that's ice ball, but I know that there are pockets of black upwardly mobile people who do things and have shindigs, but when it has this economic justice focus, I think we're a little bit frayed. So I want to acknowledge that. I know that I'm painting with a fairly large brush, but I kind of want to, here in Charleston, right? Here in Charleston, I don't see it. So Richland County, other counties might have it crack-a-lacking, but I'm not seeing it here. So this is Indiana, and I wanted to play this one. This is Indiana, and their Black Chamber of Commerce is forming. So this is interesting to hear this. Like this is from 8 days after Meekmas. So this is fairly recent.
A new statewide collaboration aims to improve the odds for black-owned businesses, and it involves bringing together Black Chamber of Commerce groups from around the state. News 8's multicultural reporter Katira Winfrey joining us now with more. Katira?
Phil, even in the middle of the pandemic, the Indianapolis Black Chamber of Commerce says its membership grew 40%. They say many businesses are learning that they can survive.
Shout out to full-figured women in media, on camera, full-figured with natural hair, brown skin, unambiguously black. I'm sorry, got lifted up when I see it. It's so important to see.
If they shift their game plan and being able to collaborate and reel in resources from around the state can only help. 20 years ago, Anita and Ellis Woolridge developed a business, Impact Specialties and Promotions. Despite challenges, it's still here today and thriving, even more despite the pandemic.
We did grow, which was we didn't have a great year the year before, so we were really panicking going into the pandemic. But again, as I said, we had to morph.
The pair specializes in promotional products. Adapting has been key.
So keep me honest. Do we have a statewide Black Chamber? Right?
Staying afloat. So
could we have a statewide Black Chamber? I know it would be hell to put together, but it'd be worth it.
Instead of just personalized pens, bags, cups, and more, they've created promotional personal protection equipment for businesses like masks and face shields.
One of the things.
So think about that. So not just creating access to capital, but think about a chamber that's designed to help folks. Okay, you're a business trying to maintain, trying to thrive during a global pandemic. What does it look like to outfit your organization with masks, or give it to you at a cut rate discount, right? Or give you mask, PPE, hand sanitizer, things that keep your business open. Maybe advice, maybe connecting you to a resource that will help and come in and sanitize your hotel if you own that, or come and sanitize your bed and breakfast, right? If you own that. Like, what does it look like if we had a Black Chamber of Commerce that was positioned to respond to not just the financial needs, the express financial needs and access to loans, microloans, all that other stuff, but actually designed to respond to the needs of the moment and to supplement that in ways that are less financial, right? What does that look like? to have that kind of epicenter. That's the other part. And we don't have that because this city has conditioned us to say, no, we got this black man running CCF. He gonna hook y'all up. He went to Mark Zuckerberg and came back with a bag. You good. Nah, I think that just really helps out. Like, that's just like a grant. Like, that's just like 5 figures. That's not sustained investment. That's not long term. I need more. No. He's working with the schools. So he's going to then create this pipeline to when your kids come out. No, actually, that's not. And he's trying to privatize schools. So I'm not really. I need a black chamber. No, you don't need that. No, you don't need no black chamber. I'm having this conversation with myself. You don't need no black chamber. Just take the philanthropy, take the charity. Because we don't want change. We don't want transformation. We want to turn Charleston into fucking Barbados. So not only we want to turn into what's a Caribbean destination spot that is all 100% tourism? Is it Barbados? I have never been to Barbados. The Caribbean for me is Dominican Republic. And I haven't been to Bermuda, but where are those places where it's just an island destination? That's what the peninsula, that's what the business investment district, that's what they're building out. Indigo Road and them, that's what they're building out, right? Through the CVB, there's so much, and I told you the CVB is comprised of the real power. Helen Hill is a talking head for way more powerful interests and way more money, right? So it's the hotel investors. That's why I'm bringing up Indigo Road, because it's the hotel investors, and that's just one. The hotel investors that actually dictate what the CVB does, right? Anyway, I'm asked a lot. Anguilla, okay, Anguilla, Bahamas. That's what Charleston's supposed to be. Charleston, okay. Oh, B-Man, there is a chamber. Let me see. Yeah. I have no, oh, wow. He's smiling while he cutting our throats at the same time. Yeah. I literally don't know nothing about this. Is this a official chapter of Make Our Country? What the fuck? What did I just click on? I clicked on home. Oh no, new. I clicked on news. Hold on, what? I clicked on news. What is that? Was that just an ad? Nothing. What the? What's going on, y'all? Yeah, I'm not. No. What the fuck is this? Yeah, this is further proving my point. Oh my God, who made this website? It's tied to another person's. Oh, this is generic? They left up. Is this like one of those generic pages? Yeah, info at my mail. Oh, this is so they didn't finish building out the website. So they didn't finish. Your Honor, I rest my case.
Positive out of the pandemic is it has put people in a place where they were able to really focus on the things that they really desired to do.
Being willing to reshape one's game plan has been paramount for businesses surviving the pandemic, and with more eyes on black businesses, Indy Black Chamber President Anita Williams says it's time to latch on to that.
After about 5 years, we know that 50% of the businesses fail. So we want to be there to change that outlook, to change that paradigm.
The Indy Chamber is one of many other chambers that'll make up the Greater Indiana Black Chamber of Commerce. It'll support businesses in places like Indianapolis.
That means we need the Greater South Carolina Black. That was also what was missing from the Black Chamber of Commerce.
Muncie, Anderson, and Evansville.
If you bring other minds together, you know, how would...
Oh, I missed my opportunity. When I said, Your Honor, I rest my case, I missed my opportunity. Your Honor, I rest my case.
You still buy my product? product or service if I didn't have my brick and mortar.
Williams says collective economics always works.
They really have a heart for Black business and wanting you to succeed.
And the official launch for the Greater Indiana Black Chamber of Commerce is happening this Saturday. Reporting in the studio, I'm Wish TV News 8's multicultural reporter, Katira Win.
And let me just say this. I know that there are barriers to to Brandon. I mean, Brandon talked about like this lack of diversity within the tech spaces here. So I want to say this, and I'm being real as I can be. The fact that some Black businesses or organizations don't have a fully functioning website is a byproduct of a larger issue. I want to acknowledge that. However, just like with the candidate, Mr. Lewis, yesterday, you know, we this is not respectability. This is just an expectation that if you don't have something together, let's build it out before we launch. And let's have, you know, if you're gonna be a little rogue, if you're gonna be a little bit outside establishment, let's formulate a plan, right? And so there's been times on my website when I was with Pink Verbena, my website now was in disrepair. So I don't want to sound like Mika, you laughing. I'm not laughing at them per se, but you know, just there's an expectation, I guess, I should have, and maybe it's a little too lofty, but I guess I'm recognizing my own anti-Blackness, I guess, in that I keep poo-pooing stuff, but it's not. But I think it's also a larger illustration of the problem, which is there isn't this one specific space, this go-to resource that's ready to go, and to build out some of this work right here that we're seeing in places like Indiana, in Savannah, some other places. Even if we don't know how it pans out. I think it's important that we talk about it. I wanted to talk about this story. Actually, I found this 2 days ago, and it coincides with what we're talking about in terms of Black businesses building Black wealth, the wealth gap, and whatnot. There's two things. So this gonna sound. Oh God, April mentioned land trust earlier. And we talked about co-housing and these co-social spaces. I can't remember all the terms we learned, but these spaces that are designed to accommodate community rather than the individual families, right? We talked about that. What they have in common is there's a cooperative economics component to it, right? Where you rely on the collective, the community, to sustain. All right, so that's pretty much a straight through line thread that I'm going to tie here. So this piece, and I've lifted this up before, I'm going to lift it up again. And I want to warn y'all, some of the clips I might play might get erased once it goes to YouTube. But I wanted to play this again about how people like immigrant communities, how they exist in this society where, especially if their documentation status is in flux. How do immigrant communities come and pool resources? And I thought this story from a couple years ago was really, really, really important. And I want to play it again because it's all about pooling resources, again, in the same vein of like housing and affordable housing. I think when we talk about wealth, access to wealth and capital, and Black business landscape and lack of diversity, and a lack of actually centering thoughtful reforms and transformative strategies like a Black chamber versus marketing tools or the influencer strategy or just relying on toxic philanthro capitalism, right? Pooling of resources is also going to be an important part. So I wanted to play this again. This is in Harlem.
If I'm in the group, it's $1,000. I already have it in there.
I want to see if how many people joined the 100, because I would want a bigger impact.
So, well, you know,
I would be amiable to being in a $100 group too. Just 50 is the safe one to me. You know what I mean? And I would go with the 100.
You can go with 100. You know, the deal is understand again, it's debt, and it's going to be coming out.
The people cut out of the banking system end up getting cut out of the American dream. It's harder to get a loan to start a business or pay for a house if you can't save.
Right. So like I said earlier, a lot of us are unbanked. A lot of that is it has its roots in how we weren't allowed to bank, how we weren't allowed to participate in this economy here in this country. A lot of that, there are still vestiges of those practices that were more explicitly expressed in policy. We're still dealing with the ramifications of that. I identify as a cash poor Black woman because because my family hasn't built any enormous wealth or whatnot, right? But another component of that is how many Black people are unbanked. And so further exacerbating the problem of not being able to participate in certain things within the economic system, right? Now, this is a focus on immigrant communities, but I feel like there's a lot of it that a lot of this is transferable to many marginalized communities and how they need to understand credit and pool resources and figure out strategies on how to build credit, even though building credit is deeply white supremacist practice.
But at lending circles like these, members save together.
Okay, here's Kim and Bobby. We got 2 more.
Reverend Charles Butler runs this one in Harlem.
We start a new circle each month, sometimes 2 circles. Since the inception of the program, we have about 350 members. Okay, so that gives us another one.
Let me rewind so you can see his title again.
Okay, here's Kim and Bobby. We got 2 more.
Reverend Charles Butler runs this one in Harlem.
We start a new circle each month, sometimes.
So it's Reverend Charles Butler. It's Harlem Congregations. Look at me. Harlem Congregations for Community Improvement. I told you about my brother's personal experience with his church that my brother is a man of faith and is a pastor, and he's a chaplain at the school where he works. Our brother benefited greatly from the church that he worked at when he first graduated college is a CDC. But what it did was it had this radical program where they partnered with conscientious builders that wanted to turn the congregation that consisted of predominantly Black people, take them from being renters and turn them into homeowners, families that can build equity. And so when I see Harlem Congregations for Community Improvement, I think about also some of the more non-problematic CDCs that are actually changing the material conditions of Black and brown people and poor people, in places like Chicago and in places like Harlem,
Times 2 circles. Since the inception of the program, we have about 350 members. Okay, so that gives us another one. And Kimberly?
I know this is a long live stream, y'all.
Each month, every member contributes a fixed dollar amount until each gets a payout. At the formation meeting, they decide on the monthly contribution, establish the order of payment, and set the intention of the circle.
Okay, so you guys end up with a $50 group, $500. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause there.
Yeah, that's how I feel, Michelle.
Known as susus in West Africa, tandas in Mexico, and hues in Asia, these informal savings and lending groups are a fixture in immigrant communities.
It looks like the presentation will be primarily in Spanish, so if anybody needs a translation,
that's another barrier. That's another
circles
barrier.
have long been used to evade discrimination from banks and financial institutions and avoid predatory and high interest.
And while the U.S. has this really gnarly practice of choosing which immigrant communities they like to support the most, right? We know, right? We look at our relationship with China and the immigrants that come here either to live or so United States only likes immigrants that have college degrees or that are enrolled in school, right? Versus, that auntie from India or that, sometimes maybe you even wonder for those who don't have the degrees or not here on those certain school visas, and this is not xenophobic at all. I'm just showing you some of these policies are geared to accept a certain type of immigrant, and then it makes you think about what about all these other immigrant communities? Now, being born and raised in Central and North New Jersey, I've seen these immigrant communities. I've seen the Jamaican communities, the Colombian communities in Elizabeth, and the Haitian communities in Newark. I've seen all these Enclave, the Portuguese community in Newark. Right, I've seen these communities thrive over the years and still kind of maintain some sort of footprint in these places, in these urban spaces. And you wonder how you come from these countries with nothing sometimes, and this country doesn't acknowledge your education that you earned in your home country. How are you able to actually build own businesses, own convenience stores, own donut shops and whatnot? Growing up, there was a lot of Indian owned donut shops where I grew up. At least in college it was. in Jersey City, right? So like, how does that happen? It happens when people sit down and they learn how to pool their resources, and they create credit circles and lending circles, especially if they don't have the social security number, they don't have the whatever it is, the status to participate, to go to a bank and ask for a loan, right? That's how they thrive. So outside of the shenanigans with the United States, let me tie it up a little neater. United States kind of picks its own winners and losers a lot of the time, all of the time. And they do that even with immigration. You can see about the lack of will, the lack of political will to advance truly transformative immigration policy currently. Shout out to Fernando for elevating that subject yesterday on Twitter. You know, this country has shown an hostility to certain types of immigrant groups. Look at how Haitians are treated versus Cubans, right? So it's not a figment of my imagination. But how do a lot of these immigrant communities work around it? How are they working around it? They're like this.
Loans. People who have bank accounts, people who have savings accounts, nonetheless prefer and find it easier to save in a lending circle or a savings club.
Professor Jonathan Murdoch tracked 235 low and moderate income American households for a year to collect detailed data on how families manage.
Often they say, I've got a community around me, I've got social support. I'm letting them down if I don't make my weekly or monthly contribution. There's one guy I was talking to here in Queens, and he said, this is sacred. This is sacred. I will not eat rather than miss payments. This is a real obligation I have.
Yeah, Nicole.
So it's very meaningful in ways that, if you just got a bank account, you don't have any of it.
Nicole, stay curious. Everybody should be learning something new every day, every week. Seriously. So don't even, I know you didn't need me to give you a pat on the back. Every day I learn something new. Every day that I prepare for one of these live streams, I'm like, what? Sitting here with my headscarf on and my night clothes, like, wait a minute, what? Like, wait, this happened in Charleston? What? K-Bell, she said I'm preaching pooling economic power. Yeah. And that's the thing, like when Brandon was talking about like building the real estate club, I won't say that I was a hater when we started talking about it. I just was like, oh God, I'm like, if you really want, like, we can't replicate capitalism if that's the, and I assume that it is as opposed to asking them questions, but the fact that Brandon and Marcus understand that we can't replicate capitalism to create it, like, that's a really great starting point. And then like also understanding like the pooling of resources is going to have to be like a key element of that. I say this all the time. We don't have to reinvent shit. We can look at how marginalized communities have historically always worked around the government. That's why I think I was chafed by the whole you got to have an EIN. Fuck that. Black community. You know how many mamas is out here working under the table? My brother used to work on Kiowa in the summer for like a summer job when he was in high school. He would come back like, Mika, yo, they just bringing this busload of Jamaicans, or like we say Jamaicans as like a catch-all for all the Caribbean populations that were probably comprising that group. I don't know if they were actual Jamaicans, but that's what my brother would always observe, is like they just bust them in. And then like I live in Wamala. On Wamala, there were more farms than they are right now, and so in Wamala they still have the housing for the immigrant folks that come on visas. These little like really low, like modest houses. And you could still see one off of Mary something road on Johns Island, Marion Point down there. You still see the old migrant farmer housing there, right? And so I'm like, if you want to know how to fix this situation, if you want to know how to the better ways to close the economic wealth gap between white or black or brown people and white people, you just have to look at how these other populations, whether they be here temporarily or permanently, look at how they've worked around the system to gain access to certain services, to certain opportunities, how they built themselves up, right? And I think you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You look at how we've existed, and then you adopt certain aspects of that and you modify them to help people advance through that, right? Yeah. Giving you confidence because pooling resources is one of our main principles. Yeah, definitely that. You really should look into that Black Chamber of Commerce.
That attached.
They'd love you, Brandon. Oh my God, look at him. Oh, Brandon. Oh, he's from Charleston. Oh, they'd love that. Go ahead and start your own chapter. Reach out to Marlon Kimpson.
When they're feeling their obligation.
That feeling of obligation can help members build up credit or establish it to begin with. Some belong to the estimated 45 million Americans known as the credit invisible, who have no credit history at the 3 major reporting agencies.
Banks really aren't focused on this population.
Nope.
They're mostly focused on customers who have more money and who are going to be more profitable for the bank.
So this was not even old. This is from April of 2020, right? Think about during the pandemic, think about all of the apps you saw, whether you're tech savvy or not, right? I read Verge, I read, all these other like techie things. I read all these tech journals and stuff like that, right? I listen to Marketplace Tech every morning. It's 8 minutes. Sometimes I let a whole 2 weeks go by and just listen to like 2 weeks worth of Marketplace Tech podcasts, right? Because they're like 8-9 minutes total, right? Think about all the products that emerged during the pandemic. Think about the ghost kitchens, right? Domino's is a ghost kitchen. What is a ghost kitchen? Place where you don't really sit down and eat, but they deliver your shit, right? Think about all the ghost kitchens that emerged. Think about all of the financial products and services. Think about how popular these stock apps, Robinhood and other places became. Think about all those commercials you see during the game, lifting up companies like Chime. Think about Walmart. When you go into your Walmart, I had to save my mama from this. Mama, don't get mad at me for just putting your business out here. My mama, for some reason, wanted to bank at Walmart. I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, we're not doing that. Okay? But think about that. Think about how more companies have emerged and say, hey, you can just get your check a little early. Just get our debit card, basically taking the money they would get and kind of keeping it trapped at the Walmart or at the Greyhound. These are 2 businesses specifically that I know offer these type of financial products to their employee base. Think about like the emergence of this really predatory or sketchy or unregulated financial services. Like think about all those things that came out during the pandemic. And in some ways, they're going to trap or they're going to ensnare a lot of the unbanked, the credit invisible, right? Some of them with false promises. Some of them does give them opportunity to build up maybe credit or something else, right? A credit history or something. But think about all of that tech that popped up and all of these tech-based. Think about the app that Sean Brock and old boy built out. So all your staff is not working because of COVID. Okay, we'll connect you to background check labor. You could just like order it like an Uber. Think about how problematic that was, right? But it's seen as a solution to some other people, and how popular that app was, and how it had the backing of a Sean Brock. Right? White man from Appalachia coming here and making money off black food. Right? The only thing I'm really pissed at from Anthony Bourdain is that, like, you lifting up this dude. Come on now, you know better. May he rest. So just think about that, and think about like what people get ensnared in that. Like how many people fall prey to these things versus some other type of solutions. I'm sorry, I just went on a rant, but.
At least in the short run. Investing in customers who are going to be profitable customers in the long run is a lower priority for a lot of banks.
There are also other reasons people find it difficult to build credit in the U.S.
I think both as a trans person and as an immigrant, I had my own fears of...
But the collards.
engaging with banks because of immigration status, because of my name not being reflected accurately on my bank account.
This is another barrier. So if you're trans and you're in transition, and that process of changing over your government documents to reflect the gender that you feel most, or, the gender, that you feel mostly connected to, or that represents you as a person, you have a barrier now because you're not always recognized, by banking institutions as who you are now versus who you were born, or you were who you were, but you get what I'm saying, like what your birth certificate says, right? That's another barrier that you have to consider. And then so this is me saying to you all that in our fight to close the black wealth gap, the black white wealth gap, right? In that there has to be solidarity at some level and to some degree, had to be solidarity, and it definitely in all planning has to be intersectional, right? You have to be able to acknowledge the multiplicity of identities and how they present and how they come up in these populations. Trans people always been around. I don't know why people get so shook and all that crazy shit. And I get it. I'm not downplaying the violence or anything. I don't know why people get shook. Trans people always been around. Gay people always been around. You can go open the Bible. Like you can open any history book. You can look at what you call them in the. You can look at hieroglyphics, drawings, scrolls. You can look at all of that and see the history of mankind. Anyway, but just think about that. So your work needs to be intersectional and be able to meet people. Now you can't do all things, right? But if you can at least position yourself to have a certain type of like LGBTQ analysis. Is part of it, and you need to have that. To me, any work that doesn't include us all is not going to work. That's why I like the way this community that I'm building out here is multicultural. It's more familiar to me and how I grew up and where I went to college, right? Literally, like the most segregated point in my life was coming to Charleston for 3 years of high school. Growing up, that wasn't so. Now, even now in my neighborhood, my street was almost predominantly, it was two white men. One white man, 2 black men who were war vets who had German wives from the war. But yeah, it was just like, so I grew up on a street that was all black homeowners, right? But my school was mad diverse, right? When Brandon was talking about shot putting with Raven, I'm thinking about shot putting with my girl Naomi in the 8th grade. Naomi, Korean young girl, like, you know, I just remember like all my friends, my birthday parties and stuff like that. And so I do feel like while we need to focus on black wealth, the black-white wealth gap, we definitely need to do that unapologetically and with a lot of thought. We also need to make sure that our work is intersectional and that and that's what, you know, it needs to reflect our values, if that makes any sense, right? King Tut. What'd you say? What? King Tut. The Glory Greens. oh my God. They heated up Glory Greens for real from the can? Stop. I wanted to end on this note right here. So, Dan, stuff I didn't even get to. Please make sure y'all buy that book, or rent, or download it, or access it through any of your like Libby or Libby or Hoopla, or your Charleston County Library app. You can download books that way too, audio books or ebooks, however you like to read, right? I do both. I do audio and read at the same time, highlighting and pencils and crayon and colored pencils, right? So make sure you get Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap. And then I wanted to show the story. I found this story like 2 days ago, but because this really this is something that me and my friend Diver talked about years ago, about how even with the Palmetto rose crafters, how we want the really serious and really ambitious ones to kind of get with tech, right? And advance and get organized. And not to say that because this is my anti-blackness coming up again, I just caught it. Not to say that they're not already organized in a way that's helpful and useful, but I feel like tech is a missing component of a lot of the Gullah Geechee. When you talk about the future and having this art form, having this culture that transcends baskets and food, yes, but to have this culture advance and have some of this stuff last and survive, there has to be a digital component to it. So this story really made me happy. Shout out. Here we go. This is gonna be my final note.
Well, over the last 2 decades, a Lowcountry tradition.
Come through, natural hair. Come through.
Has grown into a business. You've likely seen baskets and the women who make them selling them throughout the area. Well, now their sales are going global. They went from selling Gullah sweetgrass baskets in their front yards to marketplaces to now the online retail company Etsy. Spending time with them, though, we also learned their craft was bringing in revenue long before.
Look at the earrings, y'all.
This new deal was sealed.
Come on, subtle Easter eggs.
Please stop. Andrea Annie Cayetano Jefferson
does
not embrace everything about the South.
Girl, I had to box that bee off me the other day.
Her Gullah Geechee heritage that includes.
I'm just so happy that they kept that in there. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me let this play.
Weaving baskets is a major exception. The American craft dates back to the 1700s and is rooted in West African culture.
It's made by me, my mom, my daughter, Miss Vera, or my mother-in-law.
Annie is a part of a new partnership between 16 Lowcountry basket weavers and the online retail company Etsy. The deal will broaden their customer base.
Daughter Chelsea Cayetano explains it'll also double the 2-day process of making these one-of-a-kind baskets.
So first, you have to find the place that you need to go to pick out whatever material you're looking for.
So this is the end of the harvesting season.
We went along with them to Kiowa Island by hand.
Gotta put your back into it.
They pick palmetto tree branches, bulrush, pine needles, and sweetgrass, and up to 6-hour process.
We love it. It's for the culture. We have to keep it alive.
So at the tip of all of this sweetgrass is this beautiful purple pinkish color. You'd think that they pull this and weave it in some of the baskets, but actually these are seeds. And Annie tells me that they're gonna pull it and take these seeds home so that she can plant them on her own property, and moving forward, she can have her own sweetgrass to own. Chelsea, emotional as she talks about the years.
She's so cute. Is that her when she was little? But like going back to this real quick, I wanted to rewind this because we talked about this as well, right? So we talk about like, so if a black chamber of commerce that was fully activated, again, assuming that we've seen, B-Man dropped in the chat, we've seen that there are some sort of organizations that exist. So I don't want to ignore or erase their contributions or their work, right? I don't want to participate in that erasure. But let's say if it was a Black Chamber of Commerce created in my vision, it would be speaking to the scarcity of resources, because this part of tourism is where we own, like we might not own it the way we could own it and be running shit, you know what I mean? Okay, right? But we own, this is our corner, right? They have not yet found enclave of white people that's gonna come and replicate these baskets. I know they're looking and watching and waiting, but they have not yet, right? They really haven't. And it's the labor intensity of all this is also factors into it. But the scarcity of these resources is a big issue, right? So when you think about the Chamber of Commerce, okay, how do you get the Gullah Geechee artisans, how do you continue to position them so that they can flourish? Part of it is making sure that they have resources, raw materials, right? We heard Jennifer Singleton talk about this in my Water Equity Podcast, episode 1. Right? So a lot of the sweetgrass and a lot of these raw materials are now either behind gated community. Shout out to Brian Walters, and that's a testament or a byproduct of all this rampant development or destructionment, as Queen calls it, destructionment. Right? So that's one, and also two, climate change. Climate change is impacting the way in which houses are built and where they're built, and how they kind of take up spaces in place where sweetgrass and other raw materials are there. Well, Tamika, what the fuck that got to do with, commerce and black, blah, blah, blah. If a Black Chamber of Commerce would at least start facilitating conversations around trying to create access to these materials, perhaps there could be an initiative, there could be some potential funding sources that come from either the federal level or from some other outfit that just exists that we don't know yet. A think tank out in Oakland might break you off a couple of stacks so you can buy some acreage to grow some of these raw materials, or to secure the land, secure access to land, acquire real estate in any way, shape, or form, to make sure to guarantee access to these materials. Because we know how agriculture works, though. Like, you can't just, I'm gonna give you 100 acres to put sweetgrass on. That is not how it works, right? Like, where, how, who? But at least there could be a concerted effort. There could be some collaboration between the Black Chamber of Commerce in South Carolina and local environmentalist groups like the Friends of Gadsden Creek that can help them also define their ask, right? So we can articulate the issues from an environmental justice standpoint, right? We can do this with a reparations focus, right? Remember, like we heard earlier this week, reparations ain't just literally money in my hand, right? Sometimes it's a forfeiture of whatever resources and privileges you have, and you transfer that to Black people or people who have been injured by white supremacist practices, right, and excluded from this financial and this economic conversation. And so, like, a Black Chamber could lobby on that, have that conversation, facilitate whatever, to get people access to this type of funding sources or resources to help them maintain land that has some of these raw materials. I said a lot, but I hope you get what I'm saying. So I just wanted to rewind that. When you talk about, say, come here and they pulling, this is actually another component of the story. It's labor intensive work. It's work that puts you outside. It's work that has this environmentalist quality to it too that we can't ignore.
you're looking for.
So this is the end of the harvesting season.
We went along with them to Kiowa Island.
Yep.
By hand.
Yep, K-Bells.
Put your back into it.
They pick palmetto tree branches, bulrush, pine needles, and sweetgrass, and up to 6-hour process.
We love it. It's for the culture.
She said we love it.
We have
good, because like, I'm already like, my back hurt looking at her. Shout out. She said we love it. This is only for black people in the chat real quick. This is only for black people in the chat real quick. This is only for black people watching. How many of y'all hear the horrors? And I'm laughing, but it's not funny, but it's funny. How many of us read about the horrors that was slavery or sharecropping? I'm like, they're gonna have to just kill me because I can't pick this cotton in this sun with no. I can't do this. I can't grow this rice in this swamp. And you're just gonna have to kill me. I'm gonna have to run for the gun line. I know it's not funny, but it's like, whoo, my back is spasming right now, the lower back right there. Whoo. Bend your back. I'm like, I'm like, Dad, I'm leaving my hole in the dirt. I ain't quit.
To keep it alive.
So at the tip of all of this sweetgrass is this beautiful purple pink.
On a serious note, slavery was not a choice. So it wasn't like I could quit slavery, but I'd have to say, Father, come take me now.
Color. You'd think that they pull this and weave it in some of the baskets, but actually these are seeds. Ooh. And Annie tells me that they're gonna pull it and take these seeds home so that she can plant them on her own property. See? And moving forward, she can have her own.
So we need provisions around that part.
Mm-hmm. Chelsea, emotional as she talks about the years of work.
She's so beautiful.
Just because of, I know like the work that goes into it, and I've heard what people say about it, and how now I'm accepted for what I do, but my mom and my grandma weren't.
This craft has passed down 6 generations in this family. Annie's grandmother came from Laura Hill Plantation. Her grandfather, Boone Hall Plantation.
She had a 3rd grade education. She could barely read or write, but she made some beautiful baskets.
This skill has always been their livelihood, and it pays well.
This is what I like.
The highest
This the
priced
part.
basket here today, going for $12,000.
Wait a minute, I might have to bend my back. I might have to weave something. I don't know. $12,000. Like, you know, I'm just joking, but seriously. And that's what I think, double that. I'm like, double it. And the thing is, like, this will be a scarce resource. And that $12,000 basket, not to just completely commodify this art form and to reduce it to just monetary value. Because there's this tremendous historical importance in passing down this practice and passing down this skill. But that basket will appreciate in value. I would say in the next 5 to 10 years, I have no auctioneering, no type of financial appraisal experience, but that basket will appreciate in value as this art form becomes more and more scarce. And that's just the reality of it. You cannot mass produce this stuff. It's all completely handmade. And she's going to say this too. This is where I love hearing her go off about this craft.
Well, the highest priced basket here today, going for $12,000.
Is it safe to say, though, this business has actually got you rolling in dough?
I do okay. She's like, don't send the IRS. Don't send Uncle Sam over here. I do all right.
You don't go in the Louis Vuitton store and ask them for a discount, so don't come. Mine is handmade. You know who made this. Do you know who made that bag?
Now the younger generation of Gullah basket makers is taking the lead. With a twist.
I learned how to weave baskets out of this tree.
31-year-old Renisha Wolf and her family have used her website and social media pages to sell and ship baskets to Canada, Sweden, and Guyana.
Make my sweetgrass more so from being a hustle to a business.
A business.
And I feel like the internet connects me with a lot of people, and ways that me sitting outside in the market just wouldn't be able to to do for me.
And I know I've been very critical, and I'm gonna still remain critical of like the market space that has been carved out for these artisans. I do believe that it to me evokes a certain image that I'm uncomfortable with, right? I don't think that we have to see Black people with this level of skill perform this type of artistry, out in the open, in sweltering heat. I don't care if it's a shaded, the market area, there's certain parts that are shaded. To me, it's extraordinarily, it doesn't, and I love the fact that all of these basket weavers are outside doing this, right? You're not bringing all those raw materials in your home. Like some of them might have had to, but this practice is largely done outside, right? And so, that being said, like I'm very uncomfortable with the image because that Charleston is trying to sell an old antebellum South type of Southern charm, where Black people are working under the heat. The sun the sun is just beating down on you, and you're just out here. And to me, it's a very not primitive. I don't want to say that, but it's a very outdated image. When I think of these artisans, I think they should be in a climate control space, unless. And I don't know how to make these things. I don't know if the humidity or being outside actually helps the process. So I want to acknowledge I don't know shit, but I do feel as if they should be elevated. They shouldn't have to be near the Daughters of the Confederacy Memorial. They shouldn't have to look as if they're practicing something from like this antebellum period. It shouldn't have to. I'm not advocating for uniforms or anything like that or respectability. I'm advocating for this is very, very sacred. I don't even think they should be weaving that stuff in people's faces unless it's something very simple, right? To show them the kind of weaving, a technique or something. I don't think that they should be doing it out in open air spaces. I think this is a sacred art form. I think this is steeped in our personal story. I know oftentimes in Charleston they love to start our story at slavery, but the mere fact that we weave these baskets and we came here with this practice from the mother continent, from various countries within the continent of Africa, I think that story, that history alone elevates this art form that we've maintained, this Africanness that we've held on to. I really think that it should be elevated. I think it should be somewhere else. I think it should be somewhere like something that looks like the Gilliard, right? It's maybe not built on Black bones, literally, but like it should look like a place like that, and they should have an outdoor space where they choose to showcase their work, whatever aspects they want to. But it should be looked of, like she said, like Renisha just said, it ain't a hustle, it's a business. It's how they feed their families. And I just think it should be elevated. The way we treat Gullah artisan, even the palmetto rose makers, is indicative of how we really think about and view and feel about Black culture, right? Does that make any sense?
Wolf says
pay to see it like a museum. Pay to see it like a museum.
Will elevate her business even more.
Look at her.
Advertise
See, she
me
cute.
in a whole new light.
Look at Come on. Come on, Cutie Pop. On Etsy. I'm going to have to find all these people. And when they talk about supply chain shortage, man, please stop talking about that. We got makers here. Charleston love a cover band though. Like, we got makers here. And I know these baskets ain't cheap. I might only be able to afford the earrings this week. But still, someone can okay, I'm gonna buy my mom this basket for her flowers, Like, that'd be dope.
The photo shoots were very clean. It was just a new look.
Nothing.
A challenge both families face right now.
Nothing. In moderation, base of PJ. In moderation. No, wait, what do you cover? Don't say, what do you cover? Depends. Fish, Grateful Dead. What's the other one they love down here? The Dave Matthews Band. No, so it's not, I'm not coming at you for real. I'm talking about you do it all? You do Motown? Coming out around the world, are you ready for a brand new beat? I like a good review though, like a Motown, like what they do at the Poorhouse. I do like that. All right, no shade. But they be lifting up cover bands more than like original art. That's all. You dying to do R&B? Okay.
Is the development happening in Charleston?
I have noticed some of the fields that we used to go to.
Come on.
There are houses there now.
Annie hopes by learning to grow seeds on her own property, her family can continue to create art that holds onto their South Carolina and ancestral tradition.
It's
This is a
art.
really good news package.
We put blood, sweat, and tears into this.
Yeah.
Well, those baskets are up online for sale right now, and 100% of the profit goes back to these women.
Exactly. Basic PJ, we're having like a little lighthearted fun maybe at your expense, but that's exactly it, right? It's like they want safe. That's my larger like analysis. This is the thing about me. I think that's why Twitch is so helpful. I make jokes and make comments, and I see when people don't know how to engage with it, like on Twitter specifically. I get that y'all think that like, oh, I don't know about that. But like sometimes people like, so I guess my larger call out is the point you just made. It's like they love cover bands because they're safe, right? Kind of you can expect, you know what to expect. It brings out more people. They know it. We love a convenient, like Americans just love convenience, right? So we know what to expect. We can manage our expectations around, okay, Dave Matthews, we know what that is. Fish, we know what that is, right? As opposed to honoring true artistic expression that can run the gamut, right? And some diversity. Yeah, same story in Tampa and Philly. I'm from, wherever you are. You're right. There's a whole, there's a lot. I just wish we had a more robust, a more active, art scene in general. All of the disciplines, music and performance art, like all that. I wish we had more of that. But they want to make this Barbados, so they want to make Charleston Barbados, where even if you white, unless you got immense wealth, you ain't coming down here. So that's the vision. That's the vision with this business investment district. And I'm gonna talk more about that next week. I've gotten engaged on that. Shout out. I see you local businesses asking me my comments. Shout out to everybody who bought a hoodie and found an opportunity to ask me a question about local policies. It's like, hey, I bought this hoodie. Did you also know that? I'm like, it's okay. It's fine, but it's funny. It's real funny. I'm like, yo, thank you for supporting the fundraiser. My bad, I hit the wrong button. Thank you for supporting the fundraiser. But and then you sneak in like, okay, yeah. So next week I'm going to talk about the business district and the plans, and talk about, it's going to coincide with this conversation. So we're going to talk about it more at length. I want to say thank you so much to all the support. The fundraiser is still going on. I highly expect y'all to be ambassadors and to share the newsletter. Look, if you don't want to say shit, just share the newsletter. Yo, my girl, she do this thing. Yo, this is the newsletter. Check it out. She's doing a fundraiser if you feel so moved. I will say this too. I was surprised. I got some support yesterday. Shout out to Catherine Budig and Kate Fagan of the Levitar show that I always talk about, of Metalog Media rather. Kate Fagan and her boo supported the fundraiser yesterday. So I want to say this. But I want to say thank you, because I know I was critical of the health and wellness space here, and I still think that power couples here need to do more. They do, they can. But sharing my content was very helpful, especially with Kate Budig's her following. And I think if she practices her professed values and she gets some of the pushback that I've dispensed, about white wealth here and how it accumulates and how it's hoarded and how we've yet to see the type of forfeiture of resources make its way to Black communities, make its way through reparations. We haven't seen that. So hopefully they fuck with your girl. I guess they supported the fundraiser, so I'm all with it. But yeah, keep sharing it. Y'all, I appreciate y'all. Yeah. Getting your hoodie. Thank y'all. It was a home. I didn't even call Evelyn. I saw there. Treva. There was a bunch of new names last night too. Some people was like mine, like after the Kansas City football team played. Shout out to all y'all, late night creepers and live stream lurkers. Thank y'all for the support. It ain't gonna stop 2 weeks. Now I had to come out, bring out some bells and whistles to get people really activated to support the fundraiser, and I'm gonna try to do it. All right. Take care of yourself. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, everybody who stopped by, mic'd up this week. Thank you, everybody who supported this platform and the new Patreon patrons. Thank y'all. See you Monday. And I know it's the holidays, but I see you Monday. We're gonna see you Monday. Bye.